are gathered here to fill you with fear and give you a treat for your ears. As we invade your mind with our scary rhymes and some tales that can be gory. As you bear witness and sit here and listen to our poetic horror stories. This is a story of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, who was supposedly up to no good. Well, that's the way the story goes. Little Red Riding Hood was the innocent one, you see. But if you take a closer look at the story, things aren't quite what they seem. What if I told you the wolf wasn't really bad? He had a family that loved him deeply, a daughter, a son, and a wife. They said he was a good husband and dad. That day, when he went out, he wasn't looking for prey. No, that day he just happened to stumble upon the path where Red Riding Hood led him astray. You see, Little Red Riding Hood hated living in the woods with her sweet little granny. And when she saw the wolf lurking, that is when she came up with a plan that was cunning. She thought it was outstanding. She quickly put her plan into motion. To catch the wolf's attention, she cried very loud with great emotions. The wolf came over concerned and asked her why is she crying. Little Red Riding Hood put on her best performance she could as she started lying. I'm on my way to my granny's home with the basket full of treats. But I got tangled up in this brush, and I fell and twisted my knee. And now the treats are wasted all over the ground. And my granny will be very upset with me. My granny sent me to the market to pick up this food for the month. And if I go back empty-handed, she will lay her cane to my behind. And I have no more money to go back and get more. It's getting dark and I'm running out of time. My granny isn't a sweet old lady. She's mean, bitter, and cruel. And I'm afraid to go back home with nothing at all. I know she will beat me black and blue. Now this had unsettled the wolf. He didn't want the poor child to be abused. He decided he would go with her and talk to her granny and let her know this was an accident. This was no fault of her own. These things just happened. She should be compassionate. Little Red Riding Hood was pleased that the wolf fell for her scheme. She said, "You would do that for me?" The wolf said,
"Yes, now let's be on our way to your granny house. I promise everything will be okay."
But little did the wolf know that Little Red Riding Hood's granny was long dead and gone. From this world, she no longer roamed. Little Red Riding Hood had did away with her. She did it with a hatchet before she left for the market. And now she was setting the wolf up for the fall. He was her new target. When the wolf entered Granny's home, he could see everything was out of sync and wrong. The house was dark and very quiet. There was no movement. It was still and eerily silent. Little Red Riding Hood turned on the lights, and what the wolf saw filled him with fright. Granny laid in bed with a hatchet protruding from her head. Little Red Riding Hood just laughed and then said, "Wow, you have really big eyes. I guess this is taking you by surprise. And with your mouth agape open wide, I can see your teeth are big and sharp. I hadn't really realized. But now I know. You can tell you've been misled. But I need someone else to take the rap for my granny laying here dead. My granny was worth more dead than alive. And now with the insurance money I'm going to collect, I can get out of the damn woods and start a new life." But the wolf shook off the shock of this reality and wasn't giving in without a fight. He wanted to live, to get back home to his kids and wife. So the wolf roared and growled, ready to strike. But that's when a lumberjack with his axe heard all the commotion happening in Granny's home. And by him being the brave and heroic man he was, he just needed to investigate to see what was going on. He kicked open the door and saw the wolf was about to attack Little Red Riding Hood. He pulled out his axe and chopped the wolf's head off onto the floor. The poor wolf didn't see it coming. He was no more. Little Red Riding Hood knew the lumberjack would hear because he was nosy and always near. She knew his ego would lead him to break in, so she wasn't shocked. The lumberjack was her witness. This would help her get away with her plot. The lumberjack called the police, who investigated and blamed everything on the big bad wolf. They said he broke into Granny's home and murdered her and waited till Little Red Riding Hood came back with her food. But now you know the truth. Again, not everything is what it seems. And sometimes, bad people get away with doing bad things. The moral to this tale: use your best judgment when you decide to help someone you think is in need. Because sometimes, you could end up losing your life and paying the price for doing what you think is right.
Hello, P.H.S. crew, and welcome back to our game show. I'm Gloomi-Pan, your host. We have some exciting games and prizes just for you. So let's get started without further ado. The first game we will play will be a game of Simon Says. This was a game you probably played as a child, but you may not remember the rules since it's been a while. You need to pay close attention. Listen and follow what Simon says. If you do what Simon asks of you, then you will win the game. But if Simon gives you a command without saying, Simon says, and if you don't follow the command, then you will be out of the game, which will be unfortunate for you. It won't be a pretty thing. But I know you will win. I have faith. Now that the rules are all out of the way, let's play. For the P.H.S. crew viewers watching at home, you can also play along. Okay, Simon says take your pointer finger and touch your nose. Yes, that's it. There you go. Simon says bark like a dog. But make sure you're still touching your nose. Now Simon says, hop up and down on your right leg. This is just the beginning of the game. Now Simon says, stop everything. How are you guys doing at home? I hope you're still playing along. Okay, that was easy. Let's crank up this game to hard. Let's take it to another level and beyond. But first, let me tell you the big prize you could win. Believe me, it's a prize you would want to win. To not win would be a sin. But I will tell you more closer to the end. Now back to the game, my friend. Second round starts now. Simon says the first command is to cut off a finger on your left hand. There is a knife in front of you on the stand. The choice of finger is yours. Just cut it off into the bowl so you don't get the blood on the floor. You now have 10 seconds to complete this task. But if you don't, then the game will end, and you won't pass. But first, let's take a quick commercial break. Then we will come back to check on our contestants to see if they followed what Simon says. So if you are still interested in testing out our happy pill, we have to make all this information clear. Yes, we are paying $5,000 per test subject. and we can move on. Yes, the finger is there. I see you come to play. I see you aren't scared. Now Simon says, be a deer and cut off an ear. Simon wants to see if you're sincere. When you're done, place it on the plate. Then we will move on to the final part of the game. 10 seconds is now on the clock. The countdown will now start and won't stop. Oh, gee! You did it! You must be kidding. I see your ear is on the plate. This is really great. So far, you haven't missed a beat. Are you still playing at home? Sweet. Now we have made it to the final stage, and this will be for everything. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you the grand prize. Are you ready for it? We will send you back to your dimension with your body part intact and your life. Isn't that exciting? You won't die! Added bonus, $1 million will be in your bank account. That should be a good amount. Do you accept? Yes. Perfect! Then here we go. Eat the body parts you cut off from the plate and bowl. You have 5 minutes on the clock. That is all you get. And you have to eat every last bit. Time starts now. The clock is counting down. Oh, you didn't hear if I said Simon Says. Well, that's too bad. You can just guess. You have a 50-50 chance. The clock is ticking. You have a few couple of minutes. You're getting closer to the time limit. What will be your choice? Will you stop or will you eat? You now have 5 seconds left. Let's count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, you did it! You won! Oh no. Wait a minute. Our judges are saying you didn't win. We didn't say Simon Said. I know you did say you didn't hear, but I tell you, you had a 50-50 chance. Too bad. The game is over now. It's time to say goodbye to our contestant. You're out. Thank you for joining us, P.H.S. crew, and for playing along. Until next time. So long.
Here is another true grim fairy tale of a childhood story we thought we knew so well. This is a Poetic Horror Stories tale of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. The story starts with the 3 bears at home, just living their lives, doing nothing wrong. Papa Bear in his chair watching TV. Mama Bear in the kitchen cooking her special porridge, hot and creamy. And a baby bear playing with his toys in his room, waiting for Mama Bear to call him for dinner as he thinks about all the porridge that he would consume. Mama Bear sat at the table and called Papa Bear and Baby Bear to eat. They all took their place at the table, at their own seats. Papa Bear's chair was big and hard. Mama Bear's chair was very soft, and Baby Bear's chair was just right. It was very comfortable, and it was the perfect height. So Papa Bear led the family in prayer to bless and give thanks to the good food they're about to share. But the food was way too hot. The porridge burnt the roof of Baby Bear's mouth. They needed to let the food cool off, so they decided to go for an evening walk. And when they come back, the porridge should be just right. Plus, the walk will help them build up their appetite. So, the 3 bears left and they locked their door, started off on their evening stroll. But little did they know, a stranger was going to break into their home. Her name is Goldilocks. She noticed their home on her walk, so she decided to stop. Goldilocks was a very spoiled, privileged child. She didn't like to take accountability for her actions, and to get out of trouble, she would lie. Because she was small, cute, and had big blue eyes. She knew this would work every time. She would use it to her advantage and cry on cue at the drop of a dime. People would always believe her and her lies. She felt like she could get away with anything she wanted. No matter who her lies hurt, to her, it was worth it. She watched the 3 bears when they left their house. She saw them when they went out. Anyway, she was tired of being on her feet, and she wanted a bite to eat. She could smell the aroma from the food, and to her, it smelled really good. Goldilocks tried the door, but it was locked. So she found a big rock, and she used it to smash and break the lock. She went inside and headed straight to the kitchen. When she saw the porridge on the table, it smelled and looked delicious. She first sat in Papa Bear's chair, but it was too hard, and his chair was really large. Papa Bear's porridge was still really hot, so she took his bowl and threw his porridge out. Then she tried Mama Bear's chair, but it was too soft, and her chair legs were wobbly and a bit off. Mama Bear's porridge was too cold. Goldilocks took one bite and she threw it on the floor. Baby Bear's chair was comfortable and was the perfect height. His porridge was creamy, warm, and good. It was just right. When she was done, she leaned back a bit too far in Baby Bear's chair, and she broke it. But she didn't care. She was now ready to sleep. She heads up to the bears' bedroom. She was ready to count sheep. She first laid down in Papa Bear's bed, but his bed was as hard as a rock. It was hurting her back. She said to herself, "This bed is way too hard, and if I end up with back problems, I will sue these damn bears for all they got." She laid in Mama Bear's bed, but it was way too soft. She said, "This bed is so cheap. It's just awful. My God." Then she lay down in Baby Bear's bed. It wasn't too hard, nor too soft. It was just right. And just like that, she was out like a light. Meanwhile, the bears had a nice evening stroll. They were ready to eat, but they had no idea about the stranger in their home. The first thing they noticed was the lock broken on their door, and the rock that broke the lock was lying on the floor. The bears entered into the house cautiously. They didn't rush in foolishly. They took a look around, and that's when they found the chaos that invaded their home. Their porridge half eaten, broken bowls, and just a mess all over the floor. They also realized someone had sat in their chairs, and Baby Bear's chair now needed repairs. Papa Bear was enraged. Mama Bear was afraid, and Baby Bear felt betrayed. Papa Bear said, "Someone sat in my chair and had the nerve to throw out my food. Who would do this? I didn't get not one spoonful." Mama Bear said, "Yes, someone sat in my chair too. I cooked all day long. My food is on the floor, and all the porridge is gone." Baby Bear said, "Someone sat in my chair and broke it all to bits, and they ate all my porridge, every last bite." Mama Bear picked up the phone and called the police. She told them frantically, "Help me, please, we were robbed by a thief." They said, "We will send someone out to investigate, but it will be a while.
You will have a wait." So the bears started to clean up the mess. They were tired and very stressed. All they wanted to do was to go straight to bed. So they went upstairs. Then they saw someone had also been in their beds. This made them even more upset. Papa Bear said,
"Someone had been laying in my bed. Before we left, my bed was made. Now it's a mess."
Mama Bear said,
"Someone has laid in my bed also. My sheets are now tossed all over the floor."
Baby Bear said,
"Someone laid in my bed, and they are still there."
Goldilocks woke up surrounded by the bears. She was now really scared. Papa Bear asked,
"Why did you break into our home? Don't you know breaking and entering is wrong? You have destroyed our property and wasted our food. What the hell is wrong with you?"
Goldilocks didn't know what to say, so she jumped up and tried to run away. But she only made it to the door, as the police finally pulled up 1 hour later. They were late, of course. They asked, "What's going on here? Why is this little girl shaking and scared?" Mama Bear told them she broke into our home while we were out on an evening stroll. They asked Goldilocks if this is true, but she started to cry like she always do. And she begins to lie.
"No, that's not true. They kidnapped me and brought me to their house."
The lies flowed out easily from her mouth.
"They tied me up and kept me in their basement for days. And thank God you guys showed up now, because I just untied myself and escaped."
The bears were shocked from the story she just told. They thought this little girl was evil, manipulative, and cold. Papa Bear said,
"We have never seen her before today, and we are the ones who called the police to report a break-in to our place."
The police stood there confused. They didn't know who to believe and who was telling the truth. Goldilocks knew she needed the police to believe her tale, or they were going to drag her sorry ass off to jail. And through tears and sobs from her big blue watery eyes, Goldilocks asked in a small, timid voice,
"Who are you going to believe? 3 big scary hairy bears with sharp claws and teeth? Or little cute innocent me?"
So, they arrested the 3 bears in their own home for kidnapping, and they set Goldilocks free. They just let her go. And the moral of the story is sometimes justice is blind, doesn't want to see the truth. All they can see is the stereotype of a particular group. So, no matter what Goldilocks said, she was going to be justified and right, because the police felt her plight. Plus, she was so small, cute, and looked innocent, with her big blue eyes, which means she wouldn't ever tell lies. I'm a detective. I'm investigating a rash of murders in my town. A vigilante is taking it upon himself to take suspects down. But I have to admit, this case has me dumbfounded. Every crime scene I go to, footprints are the only clues. Look, I'm a very experienced detective, and I've been solving murder cases for years. And I will solve this case. Right hand on the Bible, I swear. But this case does keep me awake at night. It's my obsession. It's my vice. The attacker only attacks suspects who are accused of murder, but they got off on a technicality, when it is obvious they did it and should be behind bars. But instead,
They are out roaming around scot-free. I don't blame the attacker for taking justice into his own hands. I know it's wrong, but a part of me does understand. If I had it my way, they wouldn't have to worry about jail, because I would condemn them all straight to hell. These corrupt leaders, politicians, judges, and even our mayor. I hope this has them all scared. But my feelings aside, I have a job to do. Doesn't matter about my personal views. I can tell you one thing. The attacker is very cunning, smart, and always a few steps ahead. Like he has insight. He's like a ghost or a phantom moving in the night. It's really creepy and bizarre, making the situation hard to solve. But I have a theory that the attacker is a detective just like me too. And this is what's making him hard to pursue. He seems to know what I know, and this is why I'm always a step behind. It's like he can read my mind. But I have a plan to set a trap for him. A trap he won't be able to resist. I'm baiting him to come to me, with a suspect he won't dismiss. There's a corrupt judge that killed his wife, and he got away with his crime because they can't find the murder weapon. They misplaced the knife. Without the evidence, the jury let him go free. His motive for killing his wife was that she wanted a divorce. She was going to take the kids, half of his property, and money. She hired me to investigate to see if he was cheating. I discovered he was. He was sleeping with his assistant, lying to his wife that he had late-night meetings. He's the scum of the earth. He's the worst of the worst. And this makes him the perfect candidate for my trap. He is for sure a suspect the attacker will try to attack. I waited one night outside of the judge's home. I chose a night when I knew he was there all alone. It was after midnight and nothing had happened so far. There was nothing to report. But I started to get tired and could feel my eyes getting weak. I don't remember doing this, but I think I fell asleep. When I woke up, I was standing in the judge's home, standing over his bed with a bloody knife in my hand. I don't know how I got there and how I got in. I have no memory at all. I don't know what happened. I didn't know what to make of it. It was hard for me to comprehend, to imagine. All I remember was waiting in my car, and I must have fallen asleep. But this still doesn't make any sense to me. I started to panic because I could hear the police. I knew I needed to leave or they would accuse me. I ran out so fast, but I noticed in my haste, I left footprints in his blood. Footprints being the only clue in the room with the judge. I was able to escape. My heart was beating out of my chest. I was so afraid. I can't believe this. I solved the case. And all this time, the answer was staring me right in my face. This is why I couldn't catch the attacker. No, this can't be. Because this whole time, the attacker was me.
This is based on a true story that Renee writes, the author, took impression from. If you would like to read the actual story, there'll be a link in the description box. Thank you. Don't ever Google yourself. You won't like what you'll find. It can mess with your mind. My best friend asked me one day, "Have you ever Googled yourself? Or do a search for your name? Just to see what information that might be out there about you." I know this might sound vain. I laughed and said, "No, I never had a thought to. There's nothing that I need to know. Why?" I asked my friend, "Have you Googled yourself? And if you did, what did you find?" "Yes, I did. I found my social media accounts and my old address. Just general information you would normally find online." "No, crazy, far out, surprise." You should one day look yourself up and see what information is out there about you. And if you don't find anything exciting, well, at least you looked. Yeah, maybe later. I have other things I need to do. And at the time, we left the conversation right there. How I wish I never thought about it again. But unfortunately, I did. A few weeks passed by, and one Friday night I found myself with nothing to do. So, I grabbed my laptop, brought up Google, and Googled myself. And what I found left me feeling anxious, confused, and scared. I saw an obituary, and on it was a picture of me. I was dumbfounded. How could this be? This is a mistake. I'm still alive, obviously. But the person in the picture was my identical twin. Or a doppelganger. It just didn't make any sense. But we had the same name, the same birthday. This had to be a 1 in a billion chance that this could happen. I need someone to explain. I need to do a deeper dive. I need to know how I died. I found an article about my tragic fate. I was run over by a car and dragged several feet, and the driver left me there bleeding out in the streets. My body started to shake. I instantly had a pounding headache. All of this is impossible. I fell to my knees and passed out on the floor. I came to a little after midnight, and my laptop was still open, illuminating bright. I went to my bathroom and splashed my face with some cold water, trying to wrap my head around this horror. I went back to my laptop and looked at the information again. Then it hit me that this hasn't happened yet. The article was dated for the year 2024. This is going to happen next year. I was floored. This information is coming from the future? How is this possible? This is straight out of a sci-fi movie. This is truly paranormal. I'll take this as a sign and a warning to be as careful with everything I do. At least, I have time now to change my fate. Thanks to Google.
My grandmother told me about the forest near her home. A place that no one shouldn't go into alone. It's forbidden, she said. People go missing all the time there. It's really bad. She told me to promise to never go in there. No matter what you hear, please be aware. It's full of despair. I promised to her that I would stay away, that I would listen to her warnings and obey. But she won't tell me why I shouldn't go into the woods. She kept that information from me. I wish she hadn't, so I could have avoided this tragedy. We had no incidents when I was a child. Everything was calm for a while. But now, I'm grown, and I have a family of my own. My grandmother has passed, and I've inherited her home. Me and my wife just had a baby, and this is where my troubles began, where the devil creeped in. As soon as we brought the baby to the house, at night, we would hear whispers from the forest. It was really loud. During the day, blackbirds would fly into our windows. It freaked us out for sure. The roots from the trees were surrounding our house, invading our grounds, and disembodied screams and chanting filled our home. Such horrible sounds. But the worst of all, I started to see my grandmother at the edge of the woods, beckoning me to bring the baby into the forest. But that was impossible. So, me and my wife sent for a priest to bless our home. But it was going to take a few days before he comes, because where we lived was very remote. Me and my wife prayed every night hoping we could keep the evil at bay. Unfortunately, it didn't, to my dismay. Me and my wife decided to take shifts. Her in the day to watch over the baby, and me at night. We did everything we could to protect our baby girl. To us, she was our world. One night, when it was my time to be on guard, I made a grave mistake that cost me it all. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, My wife and baby was gone. My front door was left wide open. I jumped up and ran to the door. I saw my wife with the baby entering the woods. I called out to her to stop, but it didn't do me any good. It's like she was in a trance, like she was being controlled by someone or something's commands. I ran after her into the forest to stop her advance. I felt like this would be my last chance. She stops in a clearance, a void of trees, which was weird because it was in the middle of the forest, where you would think it would be full of trees. But instead, there was a deity that was part tree and woman that wasn't there before. She stooped over 15 feet tall. I was in awe, just floored. I could hear her in my head telling my wife to place the baby down on a pile of leaves. Then suddenly, the woman started to come out of the trees. I was terrified and stunned in disbelief. And before I could make a move, the deity impaled my wife. I could still hear her screams. The woman from the trees ran over to my wife, and they started to feast. I was petrified. I could feel my warm tears well up in my eyes. She was gone. They completely cleaned her bones. But I had to shake off my grief for now, and needed to save my baby girl. I charged towards the pile of leaves to grab my baby and to retreat. I wasn't going to let them stop me. But as I got close, I was lifted off my feet. I was hovering in the air by a force that wouldn't let me get close to my baby. I couldn't get near her. I was in suspended animation, not able to move. I felt helpless. There was nothing I could do. Then suddenly the tree deity spoke to me. She said, "I am the guardian of these woods. I am the forest, and the forest is me. And collectively, we are the witches in the trees. We have protected these trees for millions of years. We have always been here. You and your family are trespassing on our land. But long ago, we made a pact. Actually, it was with your grandmother, in fact. She promised us a new life. A baby girl would be ours. Do you understand? We have now come to collect our debt." I told her, "I don't owe you anything. I didn't make this promise to you. If you let me go, I will leave with my baby and leave your land forever. This is what I can offer, and this is what I will do." The deity said, "We cannot accept this agreement. You will have to honor the original pact. Your grandmother's blood runs through you, which keeps you bound to her contract. Your daughter belongs to me. She will become a witch in the trees." I watched as my baby girl sinked into the leaves. She disappeared, never to be seen. The tree deity released me and dropped me to the ground, and when I stood up and looked around, the deity and witches were nowhere to be found. I was left there all alone. No wife, no baby, my whole family is gone. The next day, the priest did finally arrive to help bless my home. He found me sitting in the dark, all alone. He asked me, "What happened here to you, my child? The woods are smoldering and burnt down to the ground. Where is your wife and baby? I can tell you are lost. Let me help you and be your guide." I just smiled with the lighter in my hand. I told the priest, "I know revenge is a sin and can corrupt the hearts of men, but sometimes you have to let the devil in."
Is this thing on? Hey guys! Am I live? Okay, good. I'm here to do a solo paranormal investigation in an old prison in my town. The prison has been closed for 25 years or so, and I'm 20 years old. So the prison has been here a little longer than I've been around. When this prison was active, it was run by a corrupted warden. A lot of the prisoners were treated poorly and met their deadly misfortune. Warden David Jackson, that was his name, he also met his demise here behind these bars. When the inmates ambushed him and threw him into a trash compactor that tore him apart. They say there are many spirits active here, and Warden Jackson's spirit is the scariest. I'm staying the night here alone to investigate if anything spooky is going on, and I'm doing this live so you can come along. And to make sure I stay all night, I'm going to be locked in. Without a way to escape. Tell me in the comments, do you believe I will meet my end? Do death await? Let me know. Stay tuned here to see, and it won't hurt if you guys will say a little prayer for me. I'm here now locked down on the first floor cell block with many open jails. I'm going to do an EVP, Electronic Voice Phenomenon, session in one of the cells. Let's see if we can speak with the ghosts, if we can catch a prisoner's voice. Hello? Is someone here? What is your name? Okay, let's play the recording and see if someone answers back. Hello?
Yes,
Is someone here?
I'm near.
What is your name?
James.
Oh my god. We have made contact. Did you guys hear that on the playback? Now let me do a thermal sweep, so I can see if he's in the cell with me. Oh my god. I just caught a glimpse of him. He was standing next to the bed. I can't believe this is real. I'm starting to shake. I need to calm down. I'm starting to get really scared now. I'm glad I have you guys here to talk to me. Because without you guys watching me, I promised I would climb these prison walls to break out and leave. Okay. Let's move on to cell block 2 and investigate to see if we can find more proof. I'm here in cell block 2. And I swear I can see something at the end of the cell block. It's a chair. Oh, and it just moved. I don't know if I can go on with this investigation. Things are starting to get a little crazy. Okay, I'm going to do a quick poll. Yes to stay and no to go. Of course, it's an overwhelming 99% of you that want me to stay. But before I continue, please thumbs up the live and tell me in the chat I'm going to be okay. All right, I'm going to put on a brave face and keep investigating this place. But I think I'm going to move on to the warden, Jackson office, and perform a Ouija board session to see if he will communicate and answer some questions. Yeah, that'll be good. Okay, guys, it's time for you all to participate. Type in your questions you want me to ask so I can see them in the chat. We are now ready to go. I have completed setting up the Ouija board. I'm going to ask the first question I see, and we will see if he will answer me. Here we go. Warden David Jackson, are you still here? Y-E-S. Yes. Oh, that's a good one. How many prisoners did you kill? U N K N O W N. Unknown. Okay. Are you burning in hell? I A N H E R E. I am here.
Suddenly, the planchette flew out of my hand and hit the wall on the other side of the room. I froze in place. I was too afraid to make a move. Then the door slammed closed and I heard a voice behind me. I saw the chat saying, "Get out, run, flee." I immediately leaped up and ran for the door. I didn't make it far before I ended up on the floor. I twisted my ankle and I hit my head on the side of a chair. Then I felt something grab me by my hair. My cell phone went flying up in the air. It was my only source of light, so I was left hurt lying on the floor in the pitch black of the night. But clearly in front of me was Warden Jackson, as solid as you and I. He looked like he was alive. He said, "I am pleased you are here, but the dark presence isn't, and it's coming. It's near." The dark presence was the thing killing the inmates and drove them to kill me. It thrives on dark negative energy, and it wants to escape these prison walls. It wants to be set free. It's been following you since you started your lockdown here. It's going to use you to leave. You need to listen to me. I will help you if you help me. What he just told me scared the hell out of me. I was afraid and in disbelief. I told him, "Okay, I will help you, but you need to keep the dark presence away from me." He said, "Okay, you need to make your way back to the first cell block and go to the end of the hall to a door with a lock. Here are the keys to the lock on the door. You need to take the box inside and go to the furnace. Throw the box in and burn it until it's no more. This will set me free from this jail, set us free from this dark presence that is keeping us in this hell." I followed his directions as I hobbled with my twisted ankle and made it back to cell block 1. I started towards the locked door, but I was forcefully stopped. Something negative came over me. It was trying to take control. It didn't want me to make it to that locked door. "Stop. Don't do what Warden Jackson told you to do. He is lying to you. It's his ashes he wants you to burn in that box. And if you go through and burn the box, his soul will be the only one set free. Then he will possess you and he can leave. A priest summoned me to keep him bound to this prison as his punishment, so he can pay for his discretions and all of his sins. I don't mean you any harm, but I will do what I need to stop you, because this is wrong." Warden Jackson manifested and appeared and said, "Do not listen to it. It's an evil dark presence. It will say what it has to. Don't believe its lies. Don't fall for its tricks. Again, I promise if you help me, then in exchange, I will help you. So, who do you believe? Which one of us do you choose?"
Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? Am I live? Hey guys, I'm back again after a long, crazy night. But I made it. I lived to see the morning light. I know you guys didn't see what happened to me after I fell because I lost my phone when it went flying into the air. I had to make a choice on who was telling the truth between the dark presence or Warden Jackson. You guys missed the best part of the action. I chose to believe the dark presence. Warden Jackson was trying too hard to get me to help him. He kept telling me to help him and he would help me. But he never said it would help them, the prisoner. He was just trying to use me so he could leave. I'm telling you now, I promise I will never do a paranormal investigation lockdown ever again on my own. On second thought, I think I'll leave all this paranormal stuff completely alone.
Do you feel like you've been through your life before? Like you're going around in circles? That is just the way it seems. Just like you're walking in a daze of a familiar dream. You can almost predict the next word somebody is going to say, or the gesture they will make, with just a fraction of a delay. It's really strange, like you can read their minds, or like you travel back in time. This is what they call deja vu. When you feel like a situation already happened to you. It can feel like time's askew. Time wrapping, bending, shaping itself around you. Who knew? A supernatural incident, a feeling, would help me to see, showing me the possibility. It changed my future. This strange anomaly helped me. I was about to leave work one night. I was working late, when I had a strange feeling come over me, that I needed to wait. I tried to ignore this weird and funny feeling, but my mind, body, and soul was just not willing. I took a few deep breaths and waited for a spell. That's when I heard a woman screaming for help. She screamed,
Someone, help me, please!
The crazy thing is, she sounded just like me. I took a look around my office floor. I didn't see anyone. I was sure I was alone. But that strange feeling came back again. That this isn't the first time this situation was happening. I walked towards where the sounds were coming from. The closer I got to them, all I wanted to do was to get away and run. Something just didn't feel right. Somehow I knew if I turned around the corner, I would be attacked and lose my life. So I stood still in my hesitation, trying to figure out why I was feeling this way and what was going on in this situation. I decided that I won't go and I would hide. I'm so glad I made that call, because the next thing I saw was a man. He was really tall. He came in looking around the area. I knew him. He was one of our building's mailroom carriers. He knew I was working late that day and would be alone, all by myself. And there would be no one there that could hear me scream for help. I made the decision to stay tucked away under a desk so he couldn't see me. I prayed to God he would go away. I hoped he would just leave. He yelled out,
I know where you are. You don't need to hide. You know me. Come out. You shouldn't fear.
but I didn't make a sound. As he searched for me, as he looked around, I had a bad feeling what he would do if I was found. I came up with a plan to get away. I couldn't stay hidden. Eventually he would find me. I needed to make a break for it. I needed to escape. It was funny. I felt like I was in a video game. A character with extra lives, like I had relived this game before. I played this part many times. It felt like I knew every move I should make and every turn I needed to take. It was weird. I can't explain, but I just knew, and I couldn't afford to make any mistakes. When I made it outside of my office floor, I ran down the emergency stairs to the security guard door. I was so relieved and scared. They calmed me down and listened to me. They immediately called the police. In the back of my mind, I was hoping he didn't get away and flee. They were able to apprehend him and take him to jail. And since he had a warrant, he couldn't get out on bail. A couple of days later, after the whole ordeal, a detective contacted me to inform me about the case and what they found out about him. I had to admit what the detective told me left me shaken and scared all over again. He informed me that he had stalked and harassed other women like this before. He was following me and been watching me for a while. He knew where I lived and that I lived alone. At the time he was apprehended, he had with him zip ties, duct tape, gloves, a blindfold, rope, knife, and a shovel. He was planning to abduct me and take me somewhere remote. And I shudder to think, what would he have done to me? Only God knows. The detective told me, luckily I didn't fall for his scheme and I did the right thing. And they will see me at his trial to testify in court. I am happy I used my discernment and didn't blow off the feeling. I didn't think twice. Or I would not have been here to share my story, and he would continue committing these crimes. Thank God for Deja Vu saving my life.
I have a weird story to tell. It freaked me out so bad. It almost led to my death. Monday. Hello, my name is Terry. I'm an architect that works from home. I have an office that is located at the front of my home with a big picture window. And this week, I have a lot of work due for a major project. I'm new to the organization and I haven't started the project yet, but I am already feeling stressed. My boss wants the presentation to be ready by this Friday, which means long days and nights for me. But it's okay. When you are a part of a big organization, we are a team, and we all have our roles that we play. At least, that's what my new boss says. Even though I'm doing the majority of the work anyway. This morning, as I was settled down to work, I noticed an odd little boy. He was just standing on the sidewalk. He was staring at me through my office window. He looked very young, maybe 5 or 6 years old. I started to wonder, where are his parents? And do they know he's missing? Why is he just standing there, just watching me through my window? I sat down at my computer to start my work. I took my eyes off the kid just to log on. When I looked back up, he was gone. I thought to myself, I only looked down for a few seconds. One moment he was there, and the next he disappeared. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Maybe he is hiding somewhere? Well, wherever he went, it wasn't my concern. I pulled up my presentation and I started to work. Tuesday. This morning I went to my kitchen to grab a cup of coffee. Then I walked into my office. As soon as I cut on my computer, I started to feel a bit of anxiety creep in. I couldn't figure out why. I felt fine before I walked in here. I calmed my nerves and I sat down at my desk. I happened to look out my window, and the odd little boy was standing there. He was back. But this time, he was standing on my grass. He was standing there like he was in some kind of trance. I decided to wave at him, but he didn't wave back. He didn't move a muscle, not even an inch. It was weird. Suddenly, my phone started to ring, and I turned my head to answer it. And when I turned my head back to my window, the little boy wasn't there. I thought to myself, what the hell? He disappeared again. Wow, he had to be a little Houdini. Or I was going crazy. I just sat there for a moment in amazement. Suddenly, a feeling of terror and dread hit me, because I could feel an eerie presence lurking behind me. Wednesday. When I woke up this morning, I didn't want to get out of my bed. My whole body was achy, and I had a throbbing pain only on the left side of my head. I thought maybe I was coming down with the flu, but I had to work today. No delays. This project had to be completed by Friday.
No matter how bad I feel, I will have to push through. Work comes first, even if this is the flu. So I took some Tylenol and I headed to my office. When I walked into my office, the little boy was already there standing in the middle of my yard. I thought, now this is bizarre. And again, he was just staring at me through my window. I shook my head and I thought, I don't have time for this. I don't feel well and his presence is just a distraction and a hindrance. Every day so far this week, this kid just stands and watches me. I started to feel the hair on the back of my neck stand up as I thought, this is creepy. Then it hit me. Maybe Marvin, my neighbor, put him up to this as a prank, to nerve me and get under my skin. He would do something like this, trying to creep me out with this odd little kid. But why is the question? I took a good look at the boy. Now he was a little closer. That's when I noticed how scrawny he is. His face was gaunt and sunken in. He looked like he hadn't eaten in weeks. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked malnourished and dirty. I also noticed he didn't have any shoes on his feet. I thought, maybe he is homeless and he lives on the streets? I started to wonder if he had a family. Suddenly, he raised his little bony arm and started to point at me. I instantly broke out into a cold sweat. Our eyes were locked in on one another. It felt like we were in a staring contest. He didn't move, and I didn't blink. Suddenly, I heard a ping from my instant messenger. It was my boss asking, how was the project coming along? Will I be ready for the presentation by Friday? He wanted everything to be ready. I was feeling the pressure. I quickly answered, everything looked good on my end. I should be ready. As I started to feel a sharp pain in the back of my head. When I was finished, I hit send and I looked out my window. The little boy was gone again. I could feel my mouth go dry. I had a really bad feeling deep inside. Then I started questioning myself. I thought, what the hell is happening here? Why am I afraid of this kid? Why did this have to happen this week? What does this little boy want from me? This whole situation is disturbing. I've never seen this kid before. What is his problem? I decided tomorrow, if he is standing outside of my window, I'm going to confront him and find out what is going on. Playtime is over. Thursday. When I woke up this morning, I felt like I was in the presence of death. It felt like I had rocks sitting on my chest, and I was short of breath. I thought to myself, I can't work today. I'm calling in. I really need to rest. But my boss won't let me. He said,
You can rest when you're dead. We really need you, and you don't want to let the team down now. Anyway, you only have one more day. Take one for the team. After tomorrow, it will be over. You can be sick of that.
I sighed, and I told him okay. I'll sign in. One thing about me, I'm a people pleaser, and I hate confrontation. As soon as I got off the phone with my boss, I ran into the bathroom and threw up. My stomach felt queasy and messed up. I took some Pepto-Bismol to calm my stomach down. Then I dragged myself to my office and I sat down. I felt listless and very weak. My eyes were bloodshot red, and I could barely see. When I finally focused, I opened my eyes. I was taken by surprise and starlit. The little boy was standing inches away from my window. He was looking at me menacingly, hatefully. He looked as if he could jump through my window. He would strangle me. I wanted to get up and out of my seat to run, but I was so drained, tired, and weak. Whatever the sickness was taking a toll on me. and this kid standing in judgment, just staring at me, was making me feel worse. I started to feel my heart speed up as it beat profusely. I started feeling cold, but I was sweating. The cold sweat was dripping down my body. Suddenly, I started to hear voices screaming, filling my room, and then the next thing I knew, all of a sudden I heard a loud crash and a big boom. I was so afraid, because I could see a shadow moving around inside my house. I just sat there shaking. I was petrified. That's when I noticed a small black shadow. It was on the floor of my office in a corner. Suddenly it started to grow bigger, and it was dark. I thought I saw wings as it became really tall. It stretched upward to the top of my ceiling and wall. All I could do was look up at it, because I was frozen in horror. I was paralyzed with fear. I started to feel my pulse race as the blood drained out of my face. Then I started to feel a sharp pain. It radiated from my fingertips up my arm to my neck and into my chest. That's when I realized I was having a heart attack. Suddenly the shadow developed me. Then all I could see was darkness. When I woke, I was laying in a hospital bed, and I was hooked up to a monitor beeping. When I tried to lift my head, I instantly felt dizzy, and my eyesight was a bit blurry. I could hear someone enter into my hospital room, but all I could see was a shape as it moved closer coming my way. Then I heard a voice say,
Terry, you are going to be okay.
Finally, my eyesight came back into focus. That is when I noticed. I could see a doctor standing there looking at me. The doctor said,
We thought you were a goner for a moment. Luckily, you made it to the hospital in time. You must have an angel by your side.
I asked, how did I get here?
From my understanding, a little boy called 911 to help you, and it was a good thing he did, or you, my friend, wouldn't be here.
The doctor told me I had a massive coronary infraction, which meant I had a blockage to my heart. The blood wasn't flowing to my heart. It was cut off.
When you have a chance, you should thank that little boy. He is your savior.
But the thing is, I never saw the kid again. I missed the deadline on my presentation. But it didn't matter anyway, because I ended up quitting that stress-filled organization. The stress and anxiety of it all is what nearly deleted me. But fortunately, I was saved. I had to have open heart surgery, and now I have a pacemaker. Look, I'm not quite sure what happened here. If it was supernatural, if it was real. But there is one thing I do know for sure. The doctor was right when he said I had an angel. But I believe he was an angel of death, and was here to take me. But instead, he gave me a second chance. And for that, I am forever grateful.
There were 10 little monkeys, and they were all friends. But they all met weird and bizarre deaths. This is their story of how they all met their ends. The first little monkey thought he was really cool. He would never follow any of the rules. He would cause trouble wherever he could. He was always up to no good. One day he came up missing, but later he was found. They found him at the bottom of the lake. He had drowned. They deemed this an accident, but I knew this wasn't true. He was a very good swimmer. He used to be the captain of our school senior swimming crew. The second little monkey loved to play pranks. This was just his thing. He had a prank channel on YouTube of videos of him tricking and scaring people. Some of his pranks were cruel, mean, and evil. He also came up missing too, but they never found his body. only a video of his doom. The video was found on the dark web. It showed him being strangled. Nobody believed it was real, but his fans on YouTube thought this was his best prank yet. The third little monkey was an adrenaline junkie. He loved living on the edge. His motto was, "It's not worth doing if there's no chance of death." Truer words have never been said. True to his motto, he took a chance and he ended up dead. He was dared to play a game of Russian roulette. One bullet, one gun. He pulled the trigger. Pow! And he was done. The fourth little monkey was very smart and methodical. He thought everything through. He did his best to be careful. He wasn't a risk taker. He wasn't a prankster. Hell, he wasn't even a rule breaker. But he was very accident prone. And one day, he tripped and fell down the stairs in his home, where he lived alone. His neck is what broke his fall, where he lay paralyzed for days. When he was found, it was too late, because he had already passed away. Unfortunately, when he was found, he was dehydrated and had starved to death. The fifth little monkey was playing with his kids. They were horsing around, playing and jumping on the bed. He jumped too high and hit his head. He cracked his skull, which made his brain bleed and swell. They rushed him to the hospital to try and save his life. They performed emergency surgery, but they couldn't save him. He died under the knife. The sixth little monkey loved to party and did a lot of drugs. He didn't care if it was powder, pills, injected, or smoked. He just couldn't get enough. He parties all day and all night. All he did was club. Until one night, he was so high, he couldn't tell down from up. He stumbled out, searching for his ride into the street after he left the club. But he was so stoned and fucked up. He was run over by a bus. He was squished like a bug. The seventh little monkey was a hothead. He had a terrible temper on him. He was always starting fights. He thought he was really tough because he was a really big and strong guy. He was always angry and mad at the world. He felt he had something to prove. That is, until he met his match. He ran into the wrong dude. They fought over a girl, of course, but he quickly fucked around and found out that the other guy was light on his feet, and he was fast. It was like the guy had lead in his hands. The guy whooped his ass. The guy beat him unmercifully. He beat him until he was black and blue. Unfortunately, he died on his way to the hospital. The eighth little monkey called himself a businessman, but what he really turned out to be was a scam artist. He would go around fleecing old people out of their retirement checks. He would convince them he could double their money if they would invest. But he never invested their money. No, he would spend it so he could live a life of luxury. He would buy houses, cars, and take expensive trips to overseas countries. He ended up on one of the top FBI crimes watch lists. He was a wanted man. But he keeps on running his scams. He didn't really care. That is, till one day he was found stuffed in a drum, with 2 bullet holes in the back of his skull. The ninth little monkey likes to play the odds. He was a major gambler. He would bet on anything. He even gambled and lost his wedding ring. He had a very bad gambling addiction, but he didn't see it that way. He just knew one day he would win big, And he was right. He did. He won $1 million playing poker in a tournament. But his good fortune ran out the very next day, when some cracked-out young man robbed him and stabbed him in his chest. The knife hit a main artery, and he quickly bled to death in the back of a casino alleyway where he gambled his life away. The final and 10th little monkey, he turned out to be a killer. He was placed on trial for his wife's murder, but he wasn't worried about it because he had money. And he knew his money would take care of this predicament he found himself in. He was accused of killing his wife with poison. He wanted to take over her company, and his attorney was trying to get him off on a technicality. You should have seen him. He was cocky, brash, and bold. Not even once while he was on trial did he ever show any remorse. He was even overheard saying he was glad the battle axe was dead, because he felt like she was going to nag him to death. You see, the money he spent wasn't his own. No. His wife's family had money. It was the only reason he married her. And he believed once he was acquitted, then the company and money was going to be his. But his wife was smart, and before she died, she cut him out of her will. But he didn't know this. The jury found him guilty, and because of the state he lived in, they sentenced him to death. Now he has been sitting on death row for about 10 years, and he has exhausted all of his appeals. So tomorrow is his execution date. The electric chair awaits. They brought it out just for him, so he could meet his grisly end.
Hey, how are you doing? Jack is my name, and I'm a ghost hunter. My family and friends like to call my team the Real Ghostbusters. Yeah, I've been hunting ghosts for over 10 years. And if you are here, then you know my friend. Also know that ghosts are real. So, you want to become a part of my ghost hunting team? Oh, okay. You find ghost hunting interesting. You grew up with ghost investigating shows like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures. Okay, I see. Well, the cases we investigate are not like those scripted TV shows. Our cases are real. They are really scary, very intense, and extreme. We just completed a terrifying case last week. My team and I investigated a 100-year-old hotel where the guests reported seeing a headless man. Yeah, that bastard was a very hostile and aggressive entity. He wasn't happy with our presence there. He became very upset with our questions, and he attacked our cameraman. Yeah, it's true. The attack was caught on camera. That is, if you need the proof. No? Good. You have to have nerves of steel if you want to last in this career. You will see things that will make you question your life, your religion, and your sanity. You wouldn't believe all the creepy things I've seen. But who really knows? Maybe I'm just batshit crazy. Anyway, lucky for you, we are about to start a new case. And you can tag along as our new cameraman. Yeah, after the attack, the cameraman quit. Like I said, you need to have nerves of steel. You will follow us and video log everything we do. This will be a good start for you. You can see and learn how we conduct our investigation. And take notes. There will be a pop quiz at the end. I'm not kidding. I'm for real. It's just our way to see if you're paying attention. Look at it as a ghost hunter initiation. I hope you're ready. Now, let me introduce you to my crew. They are dying to meet you. There's Jessica, Sally, and Stu. They like to compare our team to Scooby-Doo. Just without the dog. Me, I prefer Ghostbusters myself, but they are both iconic. Now go ahead and introduce yourself. Great. Now we have gotten to know each other a little bit. Welcome to the team, new cameraman. Let me now bring you up to speed and give you the history of our new case. We are going to investigate an old haunted abandoned mine town. The town has been abandoned for years. No one is supposed to be there. But there has been reports that after midnight, the whole town comes to life. Yeah, the security guard there reported hearing people talking. Lights and music coming on in the bar. They even see shapes of people walking around. Those claims sound wild, I know. I can't wait to explore, to confirm if the rumors are true or false. What kind of equipment do we use when we investigate? Good question, new cameraman. We will use standard ghost hunting equipment, like tape recorder for EVPs, night vision and thermal infrared cameras, electrofield scanners, and an electric thermometer. We also sometimes perform seances. We use tarot cards, and occasionally, we break out the Ouija board. We try anything and everything to bring out the ghosts. And as our last resort, we will even provoke. I know, this can be a bit controversial and dangerous, but we all accept and understand the consequences. So, what do you think, new cameraman? Do you have the guts? Yeah? Great. Now go home and get you some rest. Tomorrow is the day we tango with death. Hey, good morning, cameraman. Did you rest well? Today is your first day. Have you ate? Good. We're about to leave soon. We are packing up our equipment now. We will leave at noon. We have about a 4-hour drive. We should arrive at dusk, just before night arrives. This will give us enough time to set up our base and take a look around the town. At least that's the plan. Cameraman, are you ready to go? Yeah. Then let's hit the road. Wake up, cameraman. We've arrived to our destination. We are here at the Gold Rush Mines. This is our ghostly destination. Come on, let's get ready to set up our equipment. We can use the rundown store that looks abandoned. It's a good place to set up our base. And it's centralized. It's in the middle of everything. Cameraman, what do you think? Sounds good. Yeah, it sounds good to me too. Now that we are settled in and have our equipment in place, let's take a look around and get a feel for the place. Okay, cameraman, it's your time to shine. Let's get your camera rolling, as I give you some back history on the mine. What got the mine shut down, and believe me when I say, it's truly a crime. This mine was owned and ran by a man named Simon Bradley back in the 1850s. He loved prospecting for gold. Hence the name Gold Rush Mines. The same name of the mine and town. He employed over 150 people to work the mine, and in the town, where the miners live, the miners would stay in the town and rotate in and out in 6-month shifts. But Simon was a greedy and cheap man who liked to cut a lot of corners. The miners' safety wasn't his main priority. There were a lot of accidents here. Simon did a lot to cover them up by paying the safety inspector off. He was seriously corrupt. The day of the big accident, the miners were running behind schedule due to cheap equipment breaking down in accidents. So Simon needed to make up for missing time and placed a rush on the project. He had doubled the workers working in the mine. But when Simon hired these men, a lot of them didn't have real experience. But this didn't matter to Simon. These poor men were doomed the moment they stepped into the cave. The workers were working deep in the mine when all of a sudden there was a cave-in. Every man in the mine were trapped. They had no way out. As you could imagine, it was bad. And because Simon sent most of the men to work in the mine, he didn't have enough workers to help get them out. Simon had a choice. He could have brought men over from the next town to help, but he chose not to do so. He was only thinking about himself, because this would have been a major scandal, and he didn't want the government to investigate, to find out how much he cut corners. So Simon and the few of the men that were left packed up and they left. They left about 100 men in the mine that day. He left them all to die. My understanding, they mostly suffocated. It was a month before anyone knew what happened here and what happened to those men. One of the men who knew Simon's secret couldn't take it anymore. He left a confession before he took himself out. The government caught up with Simon, and he had a speedy trial. They hung him by his neck at the gallows. He slowly choked to death. And tonight, we will find out if the miners' souls are still here in Gold Rush Mines. I know that was a lot of information to take in, but it is almost time now to start our investigation. Are you ready, cameraman? I know I am. Okay, Sally, you will stay here at home base and monitor all the static cameras for any activity. Jessica and Stu, you guys will investigate the bar here in town, and me and our new cameraman will investigate the mine. Everyone grab your walkie-talkie, tape recorders, and flashlights. It's going to be a long night. Okay, cameraman, let's explore. Follow me, and no matter what happens, keep the camera rolling. Wow, it's really dark in here. We're going in pretty deep. I hope you're not claustrophobic, cameraman. Maybe I should have asked you that before we entered in. Oh well, now it's too late. Okay, this is a good location to try and capture an EVP. I'm going to turn on my recorder and ask some questions. Hello, my name is Jack, and this person here with me is my cameraman, and I have a recorder that can pick up your voices. If you don't mind me asking some questions. Who is here with us today? Yes, we are here. Can you tell us your names? Ted, Kevin, Mark. Are you a miner that worked here in the mines? Yes. How did you die? Suffocation. How many men died here? We all died. Okay, cameraman. Let me play the recording back. Wow. Did you hear that, cameraman? It's not even midnight and the mine is already active. Huh? Did you feel that cold blast of air? Okay, grab the infrared camera and point it over there. I thought I heard motion in that direction. Yeah, I see it too, cameraman. It's picking up a shape of someone standing there. Oh shit, someone just threw a rock and it hit my foot. Again, cameraman, keep that camera rolling. I have a feeling something big is going to happen. Yeah, now I'm starting to hear voices. They're coming deeper inside the mine. Let's follow them to capture more evidence. Oh no. My flashlight is starting to go out. I just put in new batteries before we entered inside. This is how you know a ghost is near. Because they drain anything that's electronic. Batteries especially. It seems to be their favorite. If our flashlight goes out, we'll be stuck in here in the dark. So turn on the night vision on the camera. That way we won't get lost. Oh my god! Something just brushed by me! Did you capture anything? No? Okay. Now I'm going to provoke the spirits to try to stir up some more activities. I'm going to piss them off on purpose. I'm going to pretend to be Simon. What? What do you mean? You don't think this is a good idea? You worry too much, Cameraman. Trust me, it'll be okay.
Hey, do you remember me? Simon. I'm your boss. The one who left you here to die. You know, I could have saved your lives if I sent for help. But instead I just left you down here. I didn't care. What do you have to say about that? Let me hear you if you're pissed off and mad.
Shit, Cameraman, did you feel that? I can feel trembling under my feet. Whoa. The vibrating is becoming more intense. What? You ready to go? You think it may be a cave-in? Hold on a minute, Cameraman. I told you, don't stop rolling. This is going to be good footage. Damn it. Something just pushed me. I felt hands on me. Ouch. That hurt. Something just punched me in the back of my head. Did the camera catch that? I think provoking the spirits worked. I believe the miners think I am Simon. What's that, Cameraman? You can now see figures of men manifesting? They're surrounding me. You believe it's time for us to leave? You may be right, Cameraman. What? The miners look like they have weapons? It looks as if they have pickaxes? And you think they want to use them? What? One of them just swung the pickaxe at me. Ouch! My right arm is in intense pain. Shit. Now I feel pain in my legs. Now on my back. Oh no. I can feel something wet. It's blood. They are attacking me. Yeah, we need to get out of here quickly. I should run, but I can't. I'm now in so much pain. Please stop. I promise we will leave. The investigation is over. Just let me out. I'm feeling woozy. I can feel blood pouring out of my head. Cameraman, one of the miners just hit me in the head with a pickaxe. Cameraman, help me, please. Cameraman, what are you doing? Wait, don't leave me here. What do you mean you quit?
And by the way, my name is Jerry, not Cameraman.
Hello, my name is Isaac. I'm 15, and I'm in the 9th grade. And I have a crazy story that just took place that I wanted to share with you. This is my first post here on the Believe It or Not Spook Forum. Today wasn't anything remarkable. It was just another ordinary day. The only thing that changed was after school, I decided to take a shortcut home through the woods. I was trying to make it home ASAP so I could watch my favorite TV show, Doctor Who. When I was close to my home, suddenly, in the clearance up ahead, I could see figures that looked like people. When I got close, that's when I realized I had stumbled upon a circle of statues made out of stone. I thought to myself, I've never seen these statues here before. I wonder where did they come from? All of the statues were angels. There were about 6 total in all. They were really tall, and they all had their hands covering their faces and eyes. It looked like they were weeping, like they were crying. Suddenly I could feel a presence, as if I wasn't there alone. When I walked into the center of the angels, they were all separated about 5 feet apart. I thought to myself, how strange. Who placed these statues here and arranged them in a circle? I felt like I interrupted a secret, sacred ritual. The weeping angel statues just stood there in the middle of the woods. It instantly gave me the creeps. Something felt off and wrong. I thought to myself, Isaac, you need to hurry up and leave. Suddenly from behind me, I heard movement. It sounded like shuffling. I quickly turned to see what it could be. That's when I noticed one of the weeping angel statues was now closer, and its arm was extended, reaching out to grab me. How can this be? The statue moved? It was just a good 5 or 6 feet away from me. Am I losing my mind? I felt crazy. I thought to myself, I need to stop playing horror games so late at night and go to bed early. I think I need more sleep. I think my brain might be oxygen deprived. Because just a second ago, I know for a fact that this statue wasn't this close. That's when I noticed I found myself trapped in the middle of the weeping angel circle. There was no escape. I had nowhere I could go. I was surrounded by weeping angels. But this felt weirdly familiar to me. It felt like I saw this scenario in a game. Or on one of the episodes of Doctor Who on TV. But I knew better. This can't be real. These statues moving on their own? Come on, Isaac. What are the odds? It's an impossibility. This isn't happening. I say as I gaslight myself. But suddenly, I saw it. In my peripheral vision. I saw the statue behind me move slightly. I was in complete disbelief and awe. Now I have confirmation. I now know for sure. I need to keep my eyes open and not let any of the weeping angels get close enough to touch me. Because, if I remember correctly, if they touch you, then they will absorb your energy. And again, I could hear one of them moving. I had to admit, these damn things are quick. I quickly turned my head to look to my left, and the angel instantly froze in its tracks. I thought to myself, Isaac, you need to come up with some kind of a plan, because without a strategy, you're not going to last. Luckily, I paid attention in school, and I remembered my Greek mythology class, and the story of Perseus and Medusa. Why that popped into my head is anyone's guess, but the story was about Perseus defeating Medusa by using his shield as a mirror. He was able to maneuver through the maze of warriors Medusa turned to stone when they looked at her. But Perseus was smart and was able to get the upper hand, to get close to her and cut off her head. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I'm a nerd. But right now, I'm happy my nerdiness will get me out of this predicament, this jam. Okay, Isaac, think. I need something I can use as a mirror. I know. I will use my cell phone. Technology. The wonders of the modern age. I will use my front-facing camera to keep an eye on the weeping angels, so I can see if one of the angels is moving behind me, and I can see what is happening in front of me. Yes, this has to work. It's brilliant. That is, if I do say so myself. No, Isaac, this isn't the right time to be boasting and gloating. Right now, you need to focus. I can give myself a pat on the back later, if I make it out of here alive. So I pull out my iPhone, and I quickly tap the app to turn on my camera. Now I have an extra pair of eyes, in front of me and behind. I slowly but cautiously move in between the weeping angel statues. They were still frozen in place, with their hands over their eyes, covering up their face. Yes, my plan is working. I felt just like Perseus the demigod, as he was moving through his fallen stone brethren, as he walked closer to Medusa, with his shield and sword drawn just before he slayed her. Wow, this is exciting. I felt like a main character in a dungeon crawler game. This is truly legendary. This is great. Finally, I made it out of the center of the circle. I was no longer surrounded by the weeping angels. I thought to myself, Isaac, you're in the home stretch now. Nothing bad can happen. Just a few more steps and you're out. That is, until my mom called. Damn it! I forgot to place my cell on airplane mode. And at that moment, my camera shut off. And on my screen, all I could see was the call from my mom. When my mom's call came through, it startled the shit out of me. Now this part felt like it happened in slow motion, so stay with me. Use your brain to imagine this. I dropped my iPhone onto the ground, and just for a split second I looked down. Yeah, I know, that was a rookie mistake. Within that second, the weeping angels came full force towards me. I knew I was a goner, but thank God for protecting babies and fools. At least, I believe, I remember that saying from Bible school. And you know who? I was between the two. Anyway, I may have the quote wrong. Who knows? When I lifted my head up, the weeping angels were only inches away. I knew I was cooked. So I did what anyone would do. I raised up my arms to cover my face. I closed my eyes tight, waiting for the weeping angels' deadly embrace. But their touch never came. When I opened my eyes, I was alone in the woods. The weeping angels were now gone. I stood there for a moment in complete silence and in shock. I was left wondering, what just happened here? Did I slip, fall, and hit my head on a rock? And I hallucinated all of this? Or was I being pranked and tricked for a YouTube video? Somewhere there's a hidden camera in the woods, and this will be uploaded to someone's channel on the internet as content, for views and clicks at the dismay of my embarrassment. No, that wasn't it. I was saved by accident. Yeah, because in the melee my fingers slipped, and I snapped a photo of the weeping angels. And when I placed my hands up waiting for my end, the angels saw themselves, and that is what did them in. Yeah, that's my story, believe it or not. But I promise you, I will never take that shortcut home again. Gumbo is a rich, dark stew. It's a thick soup whose base starts with a flavorful roux. This dish is very popular in America, a major specialty in Louisiana. Gumbo is believed to have started in Louisiana in the early 18th century. It is often believed to be a dish of mixed origins, of African, French, Spanish, Native American, Caribbean, and German influence. Enslaved African Americans often exchanged or combined ingredients in order to make the dish. They used it as a way, allowing it to serve as a means of identity and community. Records indicate that by 1764, Africans in New Orleans mixed cooked okra with rice to make it a meal. There are many types of gumbo, including Creole, Cajun, seafood, and vegetable. And all these gumbos are made with different kinds of ingredients. The best gumbo, to me, is Louisiana Creole gumbo, made with seafood. It's really filling. It's the best. Especially when my Granny Rose would make it for me as a kid. But I wasn't the only person who loved my Granny Rose's gumbo. In fact, people enjoyed her gumbo so much. My Granny Rose opened her own restaurant. Her restaurant grew fast by word of mouth. Every night, we always had a packed house. We hosted aristocrats, presidents, celebrities, and athletes. If they were well known by the public, they ate here. The restaurant even made my Granny Rose famous, and it brought in tons of money. The restaurant was very profitable and lucrative. But the restaurant also held a deep, dark family secret. And I was chosen by Granny Rose to inherit this dark family secret, to keep it going. I was going to be shown the truth of Granny Rose's dark and secretive recipe. Hello, my name is Kimberly, and I'm in my early 20s. I work for my granny here at her Creole restaurant. It's called Rose's Creole Kitchen, where we serve popular Louisiana Creole dishes. Actually, my whole family works here. My mother, father, brother, grandchildren, cousins, uncles, and aunties. They are hostesses, waiters, waitresses, cashiers, dishwashers, cooks, trappers, and accountants. Yes, you can say it's a family affair. But my Granny Rose is the only one that cooks the gumbo. She told me.
My gumbo is a closely guarded family secret. It was passed down from my great-grandmother to my grandmother, and now I'm passing it on to you. It can never leave our family. The recipe isn't written down anywhere. The recipe is locked away in my head, and when the time is right, I will walk you through the process.
I was excited when Granny Rose chose me, out of all of her grandchildren, to teach. She was entrusting me with our family secret gumbo recipe. I told my granny.
I'm honored, and I accept the responsibility. I will do my best to make the gumbo the same way you make it.
I could tell this made her happy, and at that moment, I was too. But now, I wish I never agreed to this, because when I found out Granny Rose's secret recipe that made her gumbo so addictive to so many people, it would be too late. My uncle and his 2 teenage sons would be the ones to go out every day to trap crawfish, frogs, and baby alligators from the pond and swamps. Granny Rose would only use fresh ingredients in her gumbo. She wouldn't have it any other way. We even had our own sea boat that would catch crabs, fish, and shrimp. That is what Granny Rose believes set her restaurant up for success. It made her restaurant the best. She even raised her own chickens that she would use in her chicken and sausage gumbo. She would go out personally to the chicken shack and pick the biggest chicken, and she would break their necks. She would then pluck their feathers and chop them up. And believe me, she uses every part of the chicken, either in her dishes or other ways. Nothing went to waste. My Granny Rose was a sweet older lady, but she was also very cunning, calculated, and ruthless when it came to her business. She didn't play. Granny Rose was building an empire. She wanted to leave us with a legacy of generational wealth once she left this world behind. She was going to make sure we went down in history as one of the richest black families in the country. We would be likened to the Rockefellers, the Kennedys, hell, the Kardashians. She wanted our family to be solidified. She wanted our name to become a household brand. Granny Rose was an unstoppable force to be reckoned with. She worked out deals with major grocery store chains. She had her own line of Granny Rose sauces, rubs, and seasonings. She advertised like crazy. She went on talk and radio shows. She made her own YouTube channel and would edit and upload cooking videos. Her channel name was Cooking with Granny Rose. She started her own social media campaign on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and Snapchat. She was a marketing genius. She was amazing. She even wrote her own cookbook with all her famous and popular recipes. That is, except for one, her gumbo. She wouldn't sell it for any amount of money. You could only eat her gumbo at our restaurant, at Granny Rose's exclusively. And this is why she needed me. It was now time for me to learn Granny Rose's secret gumbo recipe. Granny Rose told me we had a family motto. She told me,
When you cook with your heart and soul, the people will always come back for more. I believe people can feel your heart when you cook, which feeds people's bodies, which feeds their souls, which keeps them coming back for more. You have to understand this, Kimberly. This is the secret to cooking my gumbo recipe. Yes, I understand, Granny Rose. Good, child, because tonight, once the restaurant is closed, I will teach you how to cook my gumbo. Don't worry, I'm ready. I can't wait,
I said with excitement. Our restaurant closes every day at midnight, and there were no exceptions for tonight. Once the restaurant was cleaned, most of my family went home. Except for my uncle and his 2 sons, my teenage cousins. They stayed behind with Granny Rose and me. My uncle and my cousins were big, tall, and muscular. They looked very intimidating. They were the trappers who would trap Granny Rose's fresh ingredients every day. They would do anything and everything Granny Rose would say. When I look back at that night, I should have known something wasn't right. I had to stay in the restaurant as Granny Rose, my uncle, and cousins started to prepare. I had to admit, I was extremely nervous. About 30 minutes later, my uncle and cousins came and got me. They led me back down the windy path to the chicken shack. When I entered, it was dark, except for some candles that were eerily flickering. The candles were placed in a circle with a big black pot in the middle of them. The pot was placed on a fire pit, and I could hear the water inside boiling and simmering. Suddenly, from behind a black curtain, Granny Rose appeared. She was in a black hoodie cloak, and her face was partially covered. I said,
Granny Rose, is that you? What's going on here? I thought you were going to show me how to make your gumbo.
Granny Rose didn't say a word to me. She just stood there in front of the big black pot silently. Suddenly, Granny Rose began to chant, at first quietly to herself. Then her voice began to raise. She threw her arms up into the air and her head back. Then she said,
Our great ancestors, please accept this offering.
That's when I realized Granny Rose had a knife in her hand. She took the knife and sliced her hand open, and blood started to run down her arms. She then placed her hand over the big black pot. The blood dripped into the pot. I just watched as the steam raised from the heat. I wanted to run out of the shack, but I was petrified and I couldn't move my feet. I thought to myself, Granny Rose was going to sacrifice me? Suddenly, Granny Rose looked at my uncle and cousins, and she said,
Please retrieve my ingredients.
She then looked at me and beckoned.
Kimberly, come over here. Stand next to me.
I had never been so terrified in my life. I willed my body to move as I stood there beside her. Then she said,
Tonight, my child, I will show you the way. The way I create my gumbo with the secret ingredient.
My cousins suddenly reappeared with a live chicken and a crate of live crabs, crawfish, saffron, basil, white onions, green bell pepper, celery, the holy trinity of cooking. They also had garlic, okra, and her seasonings. And my cousins dumped them all in the big black pot all at once. I would have been impressed if I wasn't so scared. Then Granny Rose snapped the neck of the chicken. Then she placed the chicken on a concrete slab, and then she cut off the chicken's head. But she didn't use the chicken as a part of the ingredients. She turned to me and poured the chicken's blood on my head. As my cousin and Granny Rose started to chant, I begged them to stop, but they weren't listening. Then my uncle came back into the shack, and he wasn't alone. With him, he walked in with a gagged and tied up man. I could see the fear in the man's eyes, as my own eyes filled with tears as I started to cry. Then Granny Rose said,
We are gathered here today to initiate Kimberly, my granddaughter, and show her how we make our gumbo with the freshest ingredients. This is a special secret recipe that has been passed on for generations from my great-grandmother to my grandmother, and now from me to you, Kimberly, my successor. And eventually you will pass it down to your granddaughter, and so forth and on. You are now tasked with keeping this tradition alive, and you are now bonded to keep our family secret. Kimberly, do you understand?
Granny Rose looked at me for confirmation. I didn't know what to do, so I slowly nodded my head.
Good. Now, let the ritual commence.
My uncle and cousin started to wrestle with the man. The man was doing the best he could to fight them back, but in the end, he didn't win. They laid him down on a concrete slab, the same place Granny Rose cut off the chicken's head. My uncle and cousins held the man down, as we all gathered around. Then Granny Rose took my hand and she placed a sharp dagger into it. She said,
Kimberly, I place this knife into your hands to cut out the heart of this man. Once you retrieve his heart out of his chest, then you will place it into the black pot with the other ingredients.
I couldn't believe this was the secret to her gumbo recipe. I looked at Granny Rose and I told her,
No, I can't do that. I won't. This is wrong.
And I dropped the dagger on the floor. Granny Rose looked at me with such malice that I've never seen. She said,
You dare to defy me? After all I have done for you and our family. You said this is what you wanted. You agreed. You will do this, Kimberly. You will obey me.
As Granny Rose said those words, I started to feel something strange take over me. I had no control of my body. I feel like Granny Rose took over my soul. My will was no longer my own. I could see myself pick up the dagger. I had a tight grip on it in my hand. Suddenly, I plunged it deep into the chest of the man. Then I digged my hand deep into the man's chest cavity, as the man howled and screamed in pain and agony. But I emerged with the man's still beating heart in my hand, and then I turned and dropped it into the black pot. Then Granny Rose said,
Now, the gumbo ritual is complete. Now we will let it cook slowly for the rest of the day, to really bring out the flavor we are known for.
I was rendered speechless. I couldn't believe what just happened. Granny Rose looked at me and smiled as she wiped away the chicken blood off my face and head. Then she said,
It's okay. The first time is always the roughest, but eventually it'll become easy. You only have to do this once a month. That's why we use this big black pot. Your uncle and cousins will trap and provide you with all the fresh ingredients you need. Sometimes we use men, sometimes we use women. Occasionally we use children. We don't discriminate. And don't worry about the police or authorities. As long as they accept our contributions, they have no problem looking the other way. Now, Kimberly, this is important that you have to be the one who cuts out the heart for the recipe to be a success and complete the ritual. And Kimberly, remember our family motto, when you cook with your heart and soul, the people will always come back for more.
I am Dr. Teeth. This is what my patients affectionately call me. A dentist is all I ever wanted to be. It has always been my dream. When I was a little boy on my Christmas list, I asked Santa for a dental kit. When my teeth fell out when I was young, I would never place my teeth under my pillow. Why would I give away my baby teeth to a fairy for money? when instead, I can keep them all to myself. Besides, they belong to me. They are my precious. They came from my body. Then I came up with a brilliant idea. I would buy other kids' baby teeth at school and add them to my teeth collection. I would clean and polish each tooth in my collection every day. I would take care of them like they were my pet. But one day, my mother found my collection of teeth. She thought it was gross. So, she decided to throw them out with the garbage. I was so mad and pissed. I couldn't begin to comprehend why she would do something like that. So I packed up all my things at the age of 10 and I ran away. But the police found me and took me back home. This was a bad choice. I was still mad at my mother, and I wanted her to pay for throwing my tooth collection away. So I pushed her down the stairs. She tumbled and bounced down till she made it to the bottom, where she laid, bleeding from her head. And the best part, she lost quite a bit of her teeth. Thank you, Mother, for volunteering to help me start my collection all over again. And don't worry, she didn't die, but she did lose her right eye. I was filled with glee when I was accepted into a dental program at school. I was finally able to use real dental tools. A cold steel felt so good in my hands. But my favorite tool was the drill. Watching the drill grinding its way into a tooth, it was intoxicating and exhilarating. It made me feel powerful, just knowing I could drill a hole through the tooth, to your gums. It made me feel invincible. But, unfortunately, I underestimated the course load. It proved to be very challenging and difficult. I hated dental school. It wasn't anything like I dreamed it would be. I thought we would be more hands-on, and I would have a chance to work on real people. We mostly practiced on fake teeth in the mouth of dummies. But for our finals, we finally had a live patient to work on. You had to complete and pass your test with a grade of 80%. I went a bit drill happy on my patient, and I saw it off, drilled all of his teeth down to knobs. It was totally my fault. I guess I got a little too excited, and I took it too far. I was only supposed to just be doing a cleaning on his teeth. Of course, I failed, and after that, I dropped out of dental school. But that didn't stop me from becoming a dentist. No, I was still determined, even without a degree nor a license. But I still opened up a dental practice. Because when you love something that's your dream, you don't just give up on it. You have to think outside the box. Don't give up and never stop. Even if you're not certified or accredited. You don't quit. This is why I chose to practice in a small town and not in the big city. The people here seem to not ask any questions, and they tend to mind their own damn business. For me, this is a win-win situation. I get to do what I love, even though I don't have a traditional education. I quickly settled down and opened up my new office, and I named it Dr. Teeth's Children Dentistry. Kids are perfect patients for me, because they mostly have cavities from eating so much candy and sugary sweets. I'm going to love it here, because the people here don't have any tribulation or any great expectations. As long as they believe I'm doing a good enough job and they don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong, then we shouldn't have any problems. But unfortunately, you are not going to make everyone happy, and I ended up with some patients' complaints against me. I mean, there have been a few small events that has led to some minor incidents due to my lack of experience. For instance, I do my best to put my patients' minds at ease. I give them laughing gas to gently put them to sleep. This way, they don't feel any pain while I work on their teeth. But sometimes mistakes have been made, like when I gave a little too much Novocaine, which is used to dull the patient's pain. Yeah, for me it's a guessing game. I might have to use a few needles to stick your gums several times. That is until I get it right. But the kids don't complain, because the laughing gas makes them forget everything. But one of my patients took me by surprise. In the middle of oral surgery, the patient opened up his eyes. I was extracting his tooth at the time when suddenly I noticed he was wide awake. I could tell he was in a lot of discomfort and pain. Then he tried to get out of the dental chair, and he started to scream. He scared the living crap out of me. The second incident was when I had a teenage girl that was a very hard stick, and I couldn't locate her vein to place her IV in. I thought I finally placed it in, but later I found out the needle had slipped and ended up under her skin. When I was done with her oral surgery, her whole right hand swollen up like she had been stung from a wasp or a bee. Come to think of it, she may have had an allergic reaction to the medication in the IV. Her parents were so mad at me. They told me they were going to retain an attorney to sue me for malpractice and have the board take away my license. I knew right then it was time for me to leave. So I closed down my office in the middle of the night, and I just moved on. I'd lay low for a while when everything cools down. I start a new practice in a new town. I just need more time to practice and become better at my craft, and get some more experience under my belt. Because I will never let anything get in the way of my dreams of being a dentist. Because I love taking care of people's teeth, even if I don't have a degree and dental license.
Hello, P.H.S. crew. This is your dark, macabre narrator here, with a twisted, menacing story to share with you. Let me tell you a story about a poor painter and a witch, and how sometimes good attention can lead you down a path to hell. Sometimes good doesn't always win. Sometimes evil prevails. Let me introduce you to Cecilia Potter. She was a very powerful witch. She never married, and she doesn't have any kids. So, Cecilia decided to commission a painter to paint her portrait. But there was a catch. The painter could only use the paint Cecilia would supply to him. The painter found this request to be a bit odd, but like most painters, he was a striving artist, and he was desperate. He needed the money. So he accepted the commission with no questions and without any problems. Cecilia told the painter not to worry. She would provide him with all the paint he would need. All he had to do was bring his canvas and paintbrush. So that's what he did. The painter started painting Cecilia's portrait the very next day. And just like she promised, Cecilia provides the painter with paints. The painter was surprised with the media and how it brushed onto the canvas. It was very silky, smooth, and had a velvet-like texture. And the colors were deep, dark, lush, and rich. He couldn't help but notice as he painted the way the colors blend. They were stunning and beautiful. At the end of the day, Cecilia offered the painter free room and board in her home, since the painter lived alone and very far. This way, he won't have to travel back and forth. Plus, he would be there at her beck and call. But the painter felt he needed to watch himself around Cecilia. He sensed that something about Cecilia's presence seemed to be off and wrong. He couldn't place his finger on it, but he felt like something weird was going on. That night, Cecilia made the painter a big fancy meal with a sweet berry wine to drink. Cecilia told the painter it was to commemorate the beginning of the painting. The painter was grateful for food and drink, and he was happy to celebrate. After they were done with dinner, the painter retired to his room, and he fell asleep quickly. Suddenly, the painter woke up in the middle of the night. He believed he could hear something that wasn't quite right. He thought he heard crying, screaming, and moans. He thought to himself that maybe Cecilia's home was haunted by ghosts. But the painter had no idea Cecilia was a witch and she practiced witchcraft. And unfortunately, what he was hearing would happen to him in the end. The painter was a trusting man. He didn't know he was dealing with the devil. The real reason Cecilia commissioned the painting you see, the portrait would become a portal. It would become a doorway, so she could move through time freely. This is how Cecilia plans to live on, through the portrait that would contain her soul. Of course, the painter didn't know this was a part of the agreement he made with Cecilia. He didn't have any idea. The painter worked on painting every day, for the next few weeks straight, without any breaks. He did everything Cecilia wanted and said. She treated him like he was her slave. The painter also started to have weird reoccurring dreams that a vampire would enter through his window and into his room while he was asleep. The painter would lay there paralyzed as the creatures would suck and consume his blood. Every morning when the painter would wake up, he would be listless and tired. Because of the dream, it felt so real. One day, Cecilia needed to go to town to shop for supplies. The painter was nearly done with her portrait, and she told him for all his hard work, she had a big surprise. So she gave the painter the day off. He was so happy to finally have a break, even if it was just for a little while. She told the painter he was free to roam, to look about and around her home. But she warned him that there was one room that she kept locked up tight. She told the painter this was a special room. It held what she valued most, and she said to the painter, when the painting was done, that's when she would open the door to the room, and he could help her hang the portrait up. She then told the painter that she had plans for them to celebrate the happy occasion, and she couldn't wait for the day. Then she said she was heading into town and for him to enjoy his day off. He should feel free to explore the grounds. After Cecilia left, the painter walked around. The painter realized that Cecilia's house was lavish and grand. He was working so hard, he never really noticed it. He thought to himself, this place was way too big for just one person. But he could tell Cecilia must come from money. He spent most of the morning walking around the property, just enjoying the breeze as it blew through the trees. He couldn't help but to admire the scenery. But suddenly, he started to feel ill and a bit queasy. He felt like he had no energy. His chest felt tight, making it hard for him to breathe. So he made his way back to his room to lay down and rest his eyes. But when he woke up, it was nighttime. The painter spent most of his day off asleep. He had a pounding headache, and he felt really hungry. So the painter made his way to the kitchen to grab a bite to eat. While he was in the kitchen making his food, that's when he noticed something was staring at him through the window. It was big, tall, and wore a black long hooded cape. Its head looked like a goat with red eyes, and it stood up straight. The painter was startled. He couldn't understand what he was looking at. Suddenly, he heard Cecilia behind him as she walked in. The painter turned his head quickly towards Cecilia. Then he quickly turned back to the window. But the creature had disappeared. The painter ran past Cecilia straight to his room without saying a word. The next day, when the painter tried to get up from his bed, He felt like his whole body was made of lead. The painter felt weak. He knew he was sick, but he still wanted to complete the work on Cecilia's portrait. He was so close to the end. He knew he could complete the portrait that day, but if he only knew his fate. When Cecilia saw the painter, she asked him if he was okay. If he didn't feel well, then he didn't have to finish the portrait that day. But the painter told Cecilia, no, he would be all right. He would complete her portrait before they lost the sunlight. But the painter felt really weak. He had a fever, chills, and his vision was blurry, making it hard for him to see. Even Cecilia noticed how he looked very pale and fragile. He looked like he aged 20 years since he stayed there. He no longer looked like a young man. But the painter was determined to complete the painting. It was a struggle for the painter, but he managed to finish the portrait as he promised. The painting was complete, and as soon as the painter stood up on his feet, he laid his paintbrush down, and then he failed, passing out on the ground. When the painter finally woke up, he was in a room he had never seen before. It took his eyes a moment to focus. Then he finally recognized Cecilia as he gazed up at her. But this is when he noticed there was more than one of Cecilia. He slowly looked around the room, and that's when he realized, actually, there were hundreds of her. Cecilia told the painter to wake up, and sleepyhead. She said for a moment there she thought he was dead. She told him he couldn't die. Not just yet. That would be rude. We have a surprise guest arriving soon, and we still need to celebrate. The painter looked around the room confused. Then it hit him. This was the locked room. The painter asked Cecilia, where did all the portraits of her come from? She smiled at the painter. Then she burst out into an eerie, creepy, sinister laugh. Then she looked down on him and said, I'm glad you asked. She told him he wasn't the first painter to paint her portrait. She has commissioned many painters for centuries. She said, I am way older than you think. Each one of the paintings in this room is a door to another world. And every painter she commissioned always put so much effort into their paintings, so much into their work. They always catch the realism and essence of her, which in turn keeps her soul a part of the painting. They keep her alive. The painter tried to get up, but he was too weak. The painter asked Cecilia, what did you do to me? Cecilia told the painter the truth. She said, the special paint she used was a mixture of oil-based paint and your blood. This is why she let him stay. This is why she gave him free room and board. Mixing his blood into the paint opens up the door for her to pass through the portrait. The painter was mortified with the information he was being told, but Cecilia had another surprise that she needed him to know. She told the painter, every night in his sweet berry wine that he drank, he would sip a tranquilizer that would put him to sleep and paralyze him, so she could siphon his blood to mix into the paint. But she also was giving his blood to her god to drink. She told him, you remember him. You saw him when you were looking out the window in the kitchen. Yes, the goat man. He is here with us now. He wanted to celebrate with us. Suddenly, the thing that the painter saw in the window appeared. The painter knew right then and there this was his end. As the door closed to the room, all you could hear was the painter screaming, moaning, and crying. And now, P.H.S. crew, this is the end of our story. We hope you enjoyed our dark tale. I am your dark macabre narrator, bidding you good night
and farewell.
My name is Eddie, and me and my best friend Jeremy, who is also my roommate, we were up pretty late one night, playing video games. We were having a blast. We didn't notice how much time had passed. That's when Jeremy said,
Siri, what time is it?
It's 3 a.m.
That's when Jeremy said,
Man, it's early in the morning. I'm starving. Let's go to McDonald's. Are they still open?
Yeah, they have a 24-hour drive-through. I could really go for a Big Mac, large fries, and a Coke. Let me grab my car keys. It's a short drive, less than a mile.
As we pull out of the apartment, we could see the golden arches shining bright in the night. Just a few signal lights just ahead. In less than 5 minutes we were there. As we pulled into the drive-thru, we could see into the restaurant. It looked like nobody was working inside. There was no movement, and the lights were off. There was something about the building that was giving me bad vibes. We drove around the drive-thru, up to the speaker to order our food. I said,
Hello?
We waited a while for an answer, but no one came across the speaker. Jeremy said,
Maybe we should try another restaurant. Jack in the Box drive-thru. Stays open late also.
Just as I was about to drive off, suddenly we heard a voice say,
Can I take your order?
I paused for a moment because the person's voice didn't sound right. It didn't sound real. I thought to myself, what the hell? Me and Jeremy looked at one another, and Jeremy whispered,
Bruh, what the fuck?
On the other end of the speaker, all we could hear was the person breathing heavily. Then the voice repeated again, now in a really creepy but louder voice.
Can I take your order?
I hesitated. Then I said,
Yeah. I'll have a Big Mac, large fries, and a Coke, and a quarter pounder with large fries and a Sprite, and 2 apple pies.
And again, we waited for a response for a while. Finally, we heard the voice come back on the speaker, and it said,
You will have to wait for the pies. Please drive around and come inside.
I said okay, but I turned towards Jeremy, and I said,
I'm going to drive off and leave. I'm not going inside there. I don't have a death wish.
But Jeremy really wanted these damn apple pies. Jeremy loves McDonald's apple pies. But I didn't think they were that good that he was willing to die. So I pulled around to the front of the McDonald's and parked, as me and Jeremy just sat there in silence staring at the McDonald's front door. The inside was completely dark. I asked Jeremy,
So, are you going inside? I mean, you are the one who really wants those pies.
Jeremy sighed and said,
Hell no. I don't want them that bad. I've changed my mind. I think we need to leave. Something about this just feels wrong, creepy, and sinister to me.
Most definitely. I agree.
So I put my car into reverse. As I started to pull out, suddenly I heard,
Oh my god, stop, Eddie!
Jeremy shouted. I hit my brakes really hard as the car came to a sudden stop. I looked over at Jeremy, wondering why he stopped me from leaving. That's when I noticed. Jeremy was staring straight forward inside of the McDonald's windows. Jeremy's eyes were popping out of his head and his mouth was open wide. But no sound was coming out of it. He was frozen in terror and fear. So I slowly turned my head in the direction he was looking at. And what I saw was really fucked up, bizarre, and weird. There, standing in the window of McDonald's, was something that resembled a clown. I believe it was supposed to be Ronald McDonald. It had red wild hair, a pale white face, big red lips with blood dripping from them, and he was gigantic. He was breathing in and out really hard on the window. We could see his breath, and where he placed his hand on the window, he left his bloody handprint. Suddenly he opened up the glass door. He stepped out and stood in front of the store. He said,
Why are you leaving? I told you to come inside. Your Big Mac, quarter pounder, large fries, Coke and Sprite are ready. Oh, and your 2 hot fresh apple pies.
Suddenly he pulled up a blood-stained McDonald's bag that he was holding in his right hand, and in his left hand was a McDonald's employee that he was holding and dragging by the hair. He told us,
Come in, come and get your food. I made it just for you.
Then he smiled at us with his sharp yellow stained teeth. It was inhumanely wide. It looked monsterly. I looked at the McDonald's employee and could see they were in bad shape. They looked bruised up and cut up. I didn't know how much more they could take. I really felt bad for the employee, but for our safety, we had to leave. Once we were far away and safe, we could call the police. So I continued backing up. Then I threw the car in to drive. Suddenly I could hear the employee say weakly,
Please, don't go. Please, help me.
But to be honest, there was nothing we could do against the monster. That beast. I hate to admit this, but we had no choice. I drove off, leaving them with that thing. We drove to a shopping center and we called the police. They arrived at the McDonald's within 5 minutes. But unfortunately, that thing got away, and the employee was left there, dead. What else could we have done? After giving the police a statement of what we encountered and saw, they let us go, and I drove home. Me and Jeremy were exhausted from the whole ordeal. We were both ready to go straight to bed. But when we arrived at our apartment door, there was the food we ordered from McDonald's left on the floor. We stood there shocked for a moment. Then I noticed a message attached to the bag. It read,
It wasn't nice how you drove off like that without your food. But that's alright. I'll be back later tonight with your 2 fresh apple pies. From Ronald McDonald.
I have a mystery to solve, but I have a problem on my hands. I know someone is going to die tonight, but I don't know who and when. My name is Emily, and you see, I have a special gift. I can hear people's thoughts. I have had this ability since I was a kid, and right now I'm here at a party in a crowd with lots of people around. I was invited to come with my friend Michelle to her friend's birthday celebration. It was a last-minute invitation to the occasion. So I only knew one person here, and I didn't want to cause any trouble or make things weird. But the murderer has plans to kill their victim tonight. While there were a lot of people around and noise, they are planning to kill the victim in plain sight. It would be like a game of Clue, where you have to figure out why and who. All I know from hearing the murderer's thoughts They want to get close to the person while everyone is singing happy birthday. As the birthday girl blows out the candles on the cake, I think I may have about an hour before all this goes down. It's imperative I start my investigation right now. I started off talking to my friend Michelle about the suspects here in the room. I was hoping to maybe find some kind of clues. There were 15 people here at the party in all. It wasn't a very large crowd, but it wasn't very small. I could rule out myself and my friend Michelle at least. Now we are down to 13. I asked my friend, "Do you know all of the people here?" She told me. "Yeah, I know most of them. The birthday girl's name is Tina. We met at the gym and instantly became close friends. Her husband's name is Fred. Tina and Fred run a successful catering company, which made them very rich. Then there's Tina and Fred's business partner. His name is Rick. He's also here with his wife, Brenda, and their 4 small kids. There's also Tina's little sister, Brittany, their older brother, Anthony, Fred's father, Scott, and mother, Stacy. There's only one person here I don't know. He's the only person I don't have information on. So, I started to mingle to ask some questions, to listen to their thoughts, to find out their true intentions. I started with the mystery person. I introduced myself. "Hi, I'm Emily. What's your name?" He said they called him Frankie, but his real name is Frank. Then I asked, "How do you know the birthday girl?" He said, "I'm Tina's cousin." I thought to myself, so this was mainly a family affair, but someone here needs to be aware. I moved on to Fred's father, Scott, and mother, Stacy, to see what they think, because most people tend not to say what they really mean. But our bodies, thoughts, and words tend to give us away, especially when we lie. They will not be in sync. Scott and Stacy seem to be nice, smiling and being polite. I asked them if they're enjoying the party. They both smiled, and Stacy said the party was great. But what Stacy was thinking, she was ready to go home. Scott thought, "Please go away and leave them alone. We are only here for show. Once their daughter-in-law blows out the candles on the cake, they will make an excuse to go. Besides, Tina doesn't want us here. Stay or leave, she really doesn't care." So I said goodbye and excused myself. Then I started a conversation with Anthony, Tina's big brother, and Brittany, Tina's little sister, to check if one of them was plotting something sinister. I asked them both, "Are you guys having a good time?" They smiled and both said yes, but I heard hell no from both in my mind. Anthony thought, "Look at them. They think they're better than us." I could feel his disgust. I thought to myself, he seems bitter and jealous. To me, he seems a bit sus. Brittany thought, "This should have been my life. I should have been a rich man's wife. I'm tired of being a mistress. Just his side chick." Her thoughts were interrupted when someone bumped into her, spilled her drink. But I had to wonder, who was her mystery man? And was he here? I then spoke with Brenda, Tina and Fred's business partner wife, next, to see what she was thinking, to compare her true thoughts to what is being said. Brenda said to me, "This is a great party, and Tina looks amazing in her red dress." But what she was really thinking in her head, that she looks like a mess. Brenda thought, "She just wants my husband's attention. I see how she looks at him, how she leans in to touch him, flirting, trying to leave an impression. But he's my man, and I'll be damned any other woman will be with him." And with that, she has now become my leading suspect. But it's not over yet. Then I spoke with Fred and Tina's business partner, Rick, to see what he had on his mind. I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good time, Rick thought, especially enjoying the food and drinking, because I'm worried about Brenda's suspicion of me cheating. OMG, Rick is Brittany's mystery man and they were the ones having an affair? And he didn't want to get caught again? Rick thought, she barely forgave me in the past, and I know this time she would kill me. It would be over. This is my last chance. He needs to make sure Brenda never finds out about Brittany and him. He needs to make sure this time he covers his ass. I need to speak with Brittany and tell her it's over. We can no longer be. All these people are suspects to me. I'm running out of time, and now down to 3. I need to speak with Tina, Fred, and Frankie. This is troubling. They have now brought out the birthday cake, and everyone is now gathering in a circle. I have no more time to waste. I hear the killer in my mind thinking, it's almost time, and this knife will do just fine. What should I do? Who is it? I don't have enough proof. Suddenly, it hits me. I figured out who the killer is, and who they are going to kill. As everyone starts to sing happy birthday, and the candles are lit, I think to myself, get ready. This is it. Instantly, I grab Frankie as they turn off the lights, just as he pulls out a big sharp knife. He was about to stab Rick in his back, but I knocked the knife out of his hand before he could attack. When the lights came back on, Frankie tried to run. I shouted out to stop him and call 911. When the police questioned Frankie, asking him why, he said, I did it for her. He was talking about Tina, the birthday girl. She paid me $50,000 to kill him. Then she would pay me the other half, once everything was finished. Tina won't speak to the police. She pleaded the 5th. But I could hear her thoughts and why she wanted her cousin to kill Rick. Brenda was right. Tina and Rick had an affair. Rick made Tina believe they were going to leave their spouses. Their affair had been going on for over a couple of years. But then she found out he was sleeping with Brittany, her sister. She felt heartbroken, betrayed, and bitter. Tina thought if she couldn't have him, then no one can. Tina wanted revenge, so she hired her cousin Frankie and came up with this convoluted plan. Just think, if I didn't have this gift, maybe Tina and Frankie would have gotten away with it.
I have been squatting here in the attic of a newly constructed home. I have been living here for a few months or so. I would come out to eat, to take a shower, watch TV, only when the homeowner wasn't home. You see, a while back when they were constructing these new homes, we used to sneak in and stay overnight when construction was done for the day. And in the morning when construction started back up again, I would pack my stuff up and hide in the woods. But anyway. Now I know that I was wrong, and I am in a predicament of my own making. Look, I got a bit cocky and came out of the attic when the owner was home. I was hungry and I don't know what I was thinking. The homeowner seems like a nice, average, normal guy. But looks are deceiving. I was way wrong. He was a monster. He really looks like he wouldn't hurt a fly. When I came out of the attic to spy on my roommate, I saw the homeowner wasn't alone. I thought, oh great, he's on a date. So I thought I would wait until they leave the house. I would ninja cat and move freely about. What's a ninja cat, you ask? It's a cat that was a ninja from a childhood cartoon. The cat moves like a ninja, deadly but silent. But he was still a cat that was nimble and quick. Ninja cat. Anyway, my plan was to wait them out in the second bedroom. The room was an office/guest room. where I could see the kitchen. It was a part of his upgrade package as addition. In this bedroom, there is a closet with a hatch that leads to his attic. This is where I reside. It's cozy, but that's just semantics. As you can tell, I ramble sometimes, but never mind. In my last quest, I forgot to grab some bread. I wanted to make a sandwich. How I forgot bread for a sandwich? I should have better planned. That's why I was going to ninja cat my way to the kitchen when they retired to the boudoir. That is when everything instantly changes and gets bizarre. Suddenly, I could hear the homeowner shouting. Him and his date started to get into an argument? What about? I couldn't tell you. I wasn't paying close attention. I wasn't the best listener when I was in school. That is why I was always in detention. Oh, I'm off track. That is when the homeowner attacked. He grabbed his date and he put her in a chokehold. He just held her there for a while, till she went limp and he let her body go and it hit the floor. He started to pace back and forth saying, "Look at what you made me do!" I think he must have broken her neck. Her lips immediately started to turn a dark shade of blue, and her eyes were bloodshot red. I could see all of this because of the direction of her head. She was looking at me with her lifeless eyes, looking at me like, how could you just watch me die? I was mortified. So, the homeowner dragged her body into his bedroom. I could hear water running, so I assume he took her to his bathroom? He rushed out to his garage and came back with a chainsaw. I was in disbelief. I felt like I was in a horror movie. So suspenseful. I couldn't close my jaw. He went back to his room and started the chainsaw up, and after that my memory gets hazy. I think I passed out for a moment. I couldn't bear the thought of him chopping up that poor lady. And I came back to reality. I realized I was a witness to murder. I hurriedly climbed up the attic like a ninja cat, and I started gathering my things and throwing what I could into my backpack. I wanted out of this house of horrors. I needed to get gone, scram, make like a ghost and poof, disappear. Like there was no tomorrow. But when I tried to open the hatch, it wouldn't open. It was latched. And on top of that, I could smell gasoline. The homeowner set the house on fire to burn every bit of evidence. That includes me! Now I'm trapped here in this attic. The smoke is filling up this space. I should have left sooner like I planned. This was my total mistake. Because the homeowner knew I was here, and I knew I had to get out. On my last outing, I saw the homeowner had surveillance cameras that was installed as a part of his upgrade inside of his house.
Hello, my name is Mimi, and this is an incident that happened to me when I was 10. This is the story of how I was kidnapped, but ultimately escaped the Crooked Man dimension. Once upon a time, there was an old man that lived in an odd little house at the end of the street from me. His house was very old, and from a certain angle, it looked crooked and had a slight bit of a lean. We rarely see the old man leaving his house. Come to think about it, I never saw him out and about. But one day, as I was walking on the sidewalk, coming back from the corner store, suddenly, I heard an old man calling out for help. He sounded like he was in trouble. So I walked up, and his front door was open. The inside was completely dark. So I said, "Hello?" But no one answered. Plus there was no movement, no motions. So I turned around to leave.
That's when I heard a voice say my name.
Mimi, don't leave. Please come inside. Please, help me.
When I turned back around, there stood a very skinny, twisted, and crooked man. Suddenly, he grabbed me and pulled me into his home by my hand. He introduced himself to me.
I am the crooked man with a crooked smile. I was born this way because of my crooked spine. Welcome to my crooked home. Now that you're here, why don't you stay for a while?
I was so afraid. All I could do was stand there with my eyes open big and wide.
I know you were wondering why you are here. Well, once you stepped into my home, you entered into a void. You are now in my crooked dimension. I've been watching you as you walk by my home. I can see you just came back from the store. You must be on your way back home.
Yes, sir.
Mimi, do you like games?
Yes, of course.
Well, I wanted to play a crooked game, and if you win, I'll set you free from my crooked domain. What do you say?
I really need to get home. I really don't have time for a game. What if I say no? I don't want to play.
Then forever here you will stay. I have a crooked riddle you need to answer to leave. If you answer correctly, you will be set free. So listen closely and choose your answer very carefully.
It felt like my heart stopped and I couldn't breathe. I hate pop quizzes. He said,
Are you ready for my crooked riddle now?
Yes, I guess so. If this is the only way you will let me out.
I said with a scowl.
Good. Here's your question. I can run long and far. I can be captured in a jar. I can take the shape of anything at will. Whatever space that can be filled. I can be a liquid, solid, and when I'm heated up, I can evaporate and become air. I am everywhere. Everything on Earth that lives needs me to survive and to grow. Once I'm turned on, I run and I flow. What am I?
I thought about it for a moment. Then I answered,
You are water.
Yes! My riddle you answered correctly. Now, you have 3 doors from which you have to pick. Which one will set you free? Which one will it be?
What? This isn't fair. Why didn't you just tell me how to get out of here?
Tis, Mimi. Life isn't fair. Anyway, I can't. Even this dimension is confusing to me. Things here aren't straightforward. It's like my spine. Bent and curved.
Then he smiled at me crookedly. He stared at me very creepy. Suddenly, 3 doors appeared in front of me. I was hoping one would lead me back to my reality. I asked the crooked man.
There has to be some kind of clue that would let me know I'm choosing the right door.
The crooked man placed his finger on his cheek as he stared at me. Then he said,
Let me think. You know, what if my memory serves me? There is a key, but I don't know where it could be. Maybe you can help me search for it. It should open the right door so you can escape.
Remember, I said the outside of the Crooked Man house looked small, but the inside was enormous, twisted like a maze. It was weird and crazy. I thought to myself, this is going to be like searching for a needle in a haystack. Since this isn't my home, I don't know where to start at.
But not to worry. I will help you. Let's begin.
I didn't believe him, but I followed him anyway. But something was telling me he was going to lead me astray. We searched high and low, going from room to room, opening and closing doors. We searched his whole home. As we searched, we talked a bit, and he told me he is very lonely because he lives alone. He has no kids of his own. I asked him,
Have you been married before?
No. I guess I never met the right one. So I never had kids. No daughter. No son. It's only me.
I started to feel really sad for him, honestly. That is until he said,
Mimi, if we don't find the key, then you can stay here with me. I will treat you like my daughter. We would become a family. Then I would no longer be lonely. This would make me so very happy.
I'm sorry you are lonely, but I need to go home. My mom is probably worried that I haven't come yet from the store. My family would miss me terribly. Now, let's concentrate. Where could the key be?
I could tell the Crooked Man was upset, and this isn't the answer he wanted to hear. But I had to tell him the truth. I didn't want to stay here. He crookedly smiled at me, and then he said,
Okay, Mimi.
Suddenly, when he turned his head swiftly away from me, that's when I noticed something shiny around his neck. It was the key. I said,
You have the key! You've been hiding it away from me!
He looked at me in astonishment. Then he said,
Yes, you caught me. I had the key to the door this whole time.
So you have been lying to me. You deceived me. You could have set me free and sent me back to reality.
Yes, but it's because I wanted you to stay. Mimi, it's been so long since I had company. It's been nice talking to you, and I decided I'm not going to let you leave. You will stay here with me forever.
Never! You cannot keep me here against my will. I answered your stupid riddle correctly. This is not fair.
I told you once before, life isn't fair. This is just the way it is.
Suddenly, the Crooked Man's limbs started to crack and pop as he stood straight up. I swear to you, he had to be about 12 feet tall. Then he removed the key from his neck. He then stretched out his arm to throw it into a deep, dark pit that just appeared out of nowhere. I ran over towards him as I screamed out,
No! You have to let me go!
but he just stared as he smiled at me crookedly, and then he let go of the key as it fell from his hand towards the pit. But I was determined to get out of here. So when I got close to the pit, I jumped for the key as it was falling, tumbling down into the darkness. The Crooked Man reached out, grabbed me as he caught me by my hand. Then he pulled me back towards him. Then he placed me down gently as he shook his head. Then he said,
Good try, Mimi. But without the key, you will never leave. I win.
I looked up at him with a shit-eating grin and said,
No, actually, I win.
as I dangled the key in front of him. Then forcefully I pushed him into the pit. He looked mortified as he fell backwards into the deep, dark abyss. I ran back to the doors and used the key on them all, till I found the right one. I was so happy to be free and back to reality. I cried tears of happiness as I ran all the way home, not daring to look back, only moving forward. This incident happened to me 8 years ago. I'm 18 now. I'm a young adult. This is a cautionary tale for kids to beware, and not just walk up to anyone's home that is asking for help, especially if you are by yourself. Try and find an adult that you can trust, that can help, or call 911. I was lucky. This I know for sure. As for the crooked man, his house still stands, but no one on our street ever saw him again.
My name is Scott, and I'm a beekeeper. I love bees. I find them to be very interesting and smart creatures. They are a very important part of nature. It's amazing how communicative they are, and they work really diligently, very well together. You could say they work hard like busy little bees. This is just a little beekeeper humor. Anyway, today I noticed a strange-looking beehive hanging on the side of my next-door neighbor's house. The way it looked really weirded me out. The hive was 5 times bigger than a normal beehive. When I noticed it, I had to look twice. It really took me by surprise. My neighbor, Miss Simpson, and I didn't get along. She hated bees. This is why seeing the beehive hanging there was disturbing to me. But then, I started to think. I hadn't seen Miss Simpson for a few weeks. So reluctantly, I went over to inform her a beehive had formed on the side of her home. But she never answered her door. So, I decided to put on my beekeeper suit to check the beehive. But I was shocked by what I saw inside. From what I could see, the bees looked lifeless. They were barely moving around. Plus, they were really big, fat, and round. As I got closer, I noticed a rancid and rotten smell coming from the beehive. It smelled like something had died. I believe the smell was the honey. It was a very dark, crimson red, and it looked like blood. It was sticky, gummy, and some of the bees were stuck in it, like it was mud. The bees were buzzing around listlessly, like they were zombies. It gave me the creeps. That's when it hit me. I didn't notice the colony had a queen. The queen was missing. Suddenly, the bees noticed me. They became very angry and they flew at me aggressively. They attacked me ferociously. They were in a frenzy. They only stopped once I backed away from the beehive. They turned around and flew back inside. I thought to myself, this is outrageous. This is not the honeybee's normal behavior. These bees were behaving crazy. Suddenly, I hear Miss Simpson's door slowly open. But I didn't see anyone, and I didn't see any motion. So I cautiously entered inside, and the same smell hit me instantly. It was the same rancid smell from the beehive. When I looked around Miss Simpson's home, I could tell something was wrong. Things were knocked and turned over. There were moldy dishes in her sink, and a moldy plate of food just sitting on her table. Suddenly, I start hearing buzzing coming from upstairs. It was faint sounding at first, but the closer I got to the top of the staircase in the master bedroom, the buzzing was unbearable. It sounded like millions of bees were surrounding me. I slowly opened the bedroom door, and my jaw dropped open and hit the floor. I couldn't believe what I saw. Miss Simpson was sitting on the edge of her bed, and bees covered her from her toes to the top of her head. They were crawling in and out of her mouth and ears. Just seeing this was making me sick. I thought to myself, she has to be dead, because that smelly, sticky, gummy honey is in her mouth and in her ears. But suddenly, she looked up directly at me. I jumped back and I let out a scream. Miss Simpson was still alive. I wasn't sure how, because the bees were using her body as a beehive. But I don't understand why. This doesn't make sense to me. This is not normal behavior for honeybees. This is just fucking freaky. Suddenly, Miss Simpson stood up and started walking towards me, as the bees followed her like she was their queen. She opened her mouth widely, and bees flew out aggressively. They started to attack me. Their stingers were very sharp and pointy, and they were trying to penetrate my bee suit. But fortunately for me, their stingers weren't making it through. I turned and ran out of her bedroom door as the bees flew out behind me. I immediately rushed out the front door, and I didn't stop running till I made it to my home. When I made it inside, I quickly shut and locked my door. I called 911 to let them know what was going on. But when they arrived, Miss Simpson and the bees were now gone. The police investigated Miss Simpson's home. They found video footage from Miss Simpson's security camera from a few weeks ago. This is what the videotape showed. Miss Simpson in the middle of the night creeped over into my yard. She went over to my beehive with a canister of smoke. Smoke tends to calm bees, so they won't attack and sting. She reached into my beehive, and she removed something. Then she quickly turned to leave. When I saw that, I checked my beehive with the police. And this is when I realized she had stolen my queen bee. My bees would be lost without a queen. Like I said, Miss Simpson hated bees. And we had an argument earlier that day. She wanted me to get rid of my bees. I guess she decided to try and do it for me. But she made a big mistake because of her ring camera. Before she entered her home, the queen bee sent out a signal to the drone bees to attack her, and they stung her all over her body. Suddenly, the queen bee flew into her mouth and down her throat, where she stayed. The bees stung her to death, but the bees invaded her body and used her as their new beehive. So when I saw her, she wasn't really alive. It was the queen bee controlling, consuming, living inside her body. Miss Simpson's body is still missing. She has completely disappeared. And I hope to never see the queen of the zombie bees again.